All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you're new. Thank you guys so much for being here with me. Thank you for waiting patiently, as always, for the stream to start. Sorry, I'm just trying to get everything adjusted right now. Have a new camera angle I'm testing out. Not dramatically different, slightly different. I'm sure most of you will notice the difference. It's a bit subtle. But yeah, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the stream. Appreciate you guys being here. See, right off the bat, we have some channel members here doling out some memberships, which is amazing to see. I'm going to acknowledge that in just a second. I'm going to let you know that today we have a couple of PlayStation topics we're going to be discussing. Hope everybody's doing well today. Hope everybody's having a good Friday. Got my coffee with me today. But, hold on. Let me see. Come on, bro. Let me take care of this real quick. I don't know. The trolls, man. The trolls are already here. What is going on? Come on, man. We're just trying to enjoy our Friday. But yeah, we're going to be talking about how Sony has some big plans for the Horizon series, for better or for worse. I want to talk about that. We're going to be talking about The Last of Us Part 2 and how it seems to have leaked out that apparently we are going to be getting a director's cut. This game is going to be getting remastered for the PS5. Have to wonder when that's coming. So we're going to talk about that. And obviously we're going to talk about some other stuff along the way as well. Obviously, I don't know that it'll get as crazy as it did yesterday. Yesterday was an interesting stream. At around the 2.5 hour mark, just went completely off the rails and stayed there. Never went back on the rails. Don't think that's going to happen. But I want to acknowledge both Zombie Dragon and UK Gamer. Okay, Zombie Dragon gifting one membership. UK Gamer coming out here and dropping a 10 bomb. Right off the bat, man, just immediately coming out strong. Have to give you a big shout out for that, man. I actually set my membership goal today to 10, and both Zombie Dragon and UK Gamer just annihilated that goal. I'm going to have to immediately update it. Really appreciate that kind of support. We are still going strong here with the channel memberships. Let me put up to 25. So yeah, we're at 11 members already on the day. Guys, keep in mind, if you are a member, if you've been gifted a membership, or if you pay for a membership monthly, you have the ability to gift memberships. So consider doing that. Following up UK Gamer and Zombie Dragon here. All right. So there we go. I probably should, if I had known that was going to happen, I would have just set the goal to 25 from the start. So thank you so much for that, man. Let's get some W's in the chat. Actually, give me one sec. I have a bit of a new setup here today, and I actually didn't quite realize that I don't have the proper number pad. All right, guys, I'm just going to test out a soundbite right now. Let me know if it's working correctly. Okay, I'm going to give both Zombie Dragon and UK Gamer give you a Keanu. Let me know if that came through okay. Move this over here. Yeah, it's just a little test right there. And where? And UK Gamer, you also said LOL. I don't know what that was. I don't know what that was in regards to, but all right, everything seems to be working accordingly. So yeah, thank you guys for that, man. Really appreciate you guys continuing to gift the memberships, and yeah, this is a good time for me before diving into these topics to remind everybody, let everybody know. If you want to support what I do here, if you appreciate the content, if you appreciate the channel, and you appreciate the streams, be sure to, first of all, just hit that like button. That's the easiest thing you can do to help the channel out. If you want to go above and beyond, though, and support me directly, I am fan funded. As you can see, gifting channel memberships helps tremendously. It's a huge way for you to support what I do directly, but also, interact with the community here in your own way by giving out those gifts. Consider becoming a channel member if you are not yet one, and consider donating a super chat. Super chats are a great way for you to support what I do here directly, and it keeps you involved directly with the conversation. You can ask me questions. You can just give your thoughts, make statements, whatever it may be. You can do that in a super chat, and it helps me out a lot. So really appreciate it. Jay Shako, you're saying you need to have gifts turned on. Yeah, so I will just say we have UK Gamers 10 membership gift at the top here. I think all 10 of those gifts were handed out already. But for those who maybe still don't know, you have to actually opt in to receive a membership. So if you click UK Gamers icon at the top of the chat, it will ask you if you want to be allowed, if you want to enable yourself to receive membership gifts in the future here on my channel. So make sure you do that. I see somebody asking Ratchet & Clank HDD topic, or is this going to get swept under the rug by the goalpost? No, we actually, so I will let you know, I put out a stream yesterday, and I think like the first 45 minutes of that stream, we talked all about the Ratchet & Clank situation. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on that, maybe when you're finished watching this stream, you can go check that one out. Devil Shooter was able to get timestamps up for that. So shout out to you, Devil Shooter. Really appreciate you doing that. And we have PSP Reviewer. It's either PS Previewer or PSP Reviewer 100. I still can't figure out which one it is. Basically re-upping their membership. And on top of that, gifting a membership of his own. Really, really appreciate that, man. We got PSP Reviewer 100 coming in, following up UK Gamer, following up Zombie Dragon, pretty much getting a little bit of a membership train going here. He re-ups his membership, and then he doles out a membership gift of his own. So huge shout out to you, man. I'm gonna give you a Kratos for that. Really appreciate it, dude. That brings us up to actually 13 members on the day. Incredible. Love to see it, man. Love to see it. Let me see here. Oscar the Homeless says, MBG, bruh, why is Sony doing this? Why is Sony doing this? Well, probably for money, if I had to guess. Sony's probably doing it for money. But yeah, we're gonna dive into the first topic here. But before I get a chance to do so, we have Domingo813, longtime channel supporter, longtime channel member. Domingo813 follows up PSP Reviewer 100, UK Gamer, and Zombie Dragon, and drops a membership gift of his own. And on top of that, UK Gamer is coming in strong today, man. UK Gamer follows up Domingo813 with another 5 memberships gifted. We clearly have a membership train going here, guys. We have a full-blown membership train. Let's get some W's in the chat for these guys. Absolutely incredible, man. Really appreciate that support. That brings us up to 19 members on the day. Started out with a goal of 10, and we're already at 19. I really can't thank you guys enough for that type of support, man. Hopefully, yeah, guys, if anybody else, if you've just been gifted a membership, keep in mind you now have the ability to gift memberships. If this is something you want to consider doing, I'm just mentioning it because we clearly have a little bit of a train going here. By all means, consider paying it forward and following up these very generous community members here that are not only supporting me directly, but continuing to grow the membership community here. Continue to do that because I'm going to be having more members content coming down the pipeline. I'm excited about it. Hopefully you guys are as well. So yeah, really appreciate that, guys. Oh, you know what? Actually, I meant to say before diving into the first topic today. I guess this could, I don't know if I should say this is a full-blown topic in and of itself, because I'm not going to be talking about any spoilers, but I'm happy to report and let you guys know I did it. I completed Final Fantasy 16, and man, what a journey. What a journey that game was. It's not over yet. The journey's not over. I haven't platinumed it. I think I have 31 out of 50 trophies, and I went to go look at the trophies I need to earn. And one of the trophies is I have to now complete the game again on Final Fantasy mode. And I didn't start that yet because I'm seriously considering doing a stream booting up the game on Final Fantasy mode. I don't know if I'm going to like stream the whole game. I feel like that would be crazy. But maybe just doing some streams on it. You know, you guys have been asking me to do that. But I am planning on platinuming the game. My thoughts on the game, my thoughts on the ending. Well, I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to give like details. My thoughts on the game as a whole. I really did enjoy it, and I know it seems weird the way I'm saying that. I knew I was going to enjoy Final Fantasy 16, as I said, building up to it. What I didn't expect was to really be this enthralled with it. I played Final Fantasy VII Remake last July. It's my first time ever playing a Final Fantasy game, and it was it was awesome. I was genuinely shocked. I couldn't believe that I almost didn't play Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I listened to you guys. You were telling me, you're like, MBG, dude, you have to play this game, man. Do yourself a favor. You got to do it, man. And so I did. And I think I put like 50 or 60 hours into Final Fantasy VII Remake. I didn't get the platinum, but I felt like, man, I clearly have been missing out with Final Fantasy over the years. UK Gamer says, congrats, MBG, for finishing Final Fantasy 16. Yeah, dude, I think I clocked in, let me see, 73 hours is how long it took me. And I didn't just do the main story, I did everything. I did everything in the game that you could possibly do before doing the final mission and completing the game. And I won't lie, some of it was a little bit dragged out. And I think I'm going to talk about the strengths of the game. The only real weakness to me of the game was that I found myself struggling to focus 100% on all of the dialogue, because mainly with the side quests. The side quests, some of them were pretty mundane, some of them were pretty boring, but I didn't mind it. I kind of knew, like, you know, there is a little bit of filler content here, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It kind of helps break up the pacing a little bit and give you a little bit of just cool down, I guess you could say, in between the huge boss battles and whatnot. But some of the side quests were really good, especially as you get later into the game. But the only thing I really struggled with was there's so much dialogue. I mean, so much dialogue that it really became difficult for me to fully focus in. And maybe that's my fault. Again, like, you can skip the dialogue, or you can just read it at your own pace and keep it going. So I guess, you know, my complaint can easily be, you know, it can easily be taken care of if you just don't want to do the side quests, or if you just want to skip the dialogue. But I was always afraid of like missing something important, or, you know, just kind of that completionist in me where I'm like, I'm not going to feel right if I just skip through all this dialogue. It just doesn't feel quite right to do that. But other than that, you're saying also barely any RPG. Yeah, I did notice that. I guess maybe that, to me, that wasn't so much of a turnoff in this game for me, because, again, I don't have much experience at all with previous Final Fantasy games. Like, I really don't. It is actually difficult for me to kind of understand where people are coming from fully when they say, like, you know, Final Fantasy 16 didn't have enough actual RPG elements. But I do agree that the elements, the like RPG elements that are there in Final Fantasy 16, they feel like they're kind of fake, if that makes sense. Like, they feel like it's kind of like a smoke screen in a way, where they kind of show you numbers, and they show, you know, you can level up, and they show you how much health, and like they have all these different categories of things that you're increasing and getting stronger as you level up, but it's linear and you don't choose to allocate points or anything like that. So it it was always kind of nice when I leveled up to see that screen pop up that says here's how much all your stuff increased, and it like definitely gave me that feeling of like I am now stronger. But yeah, it's just kind of a smokescreen. It's not really. You're saying it's simplified RPG. I would go even further and say it's I don't even know that I would use the word simplified because it is totally linear. Like, I'll put it to you this way. They could have never once shown me that I was leveling up, that I was gaining experience, that I was seeing these certain stats increase, and I would have never known the difference. I mean, I guess the only time you really felt there being, at least for me, there was a difference. The only time I actually felt it was, and I talked to you guys about this, I think it was yesterday, where I was doing one of the hunts, and it was an S tier hunt, and it was a level 50 S tier hunt, and I was level 37. I could still beat it. It took longer than I expected. Like, it was certainly more difficult than it was supposed to be because I played it very underleveled, but it ultimately just felt kind of like a Dark Souls boss, you know? To whereas if when I would fight bosses at the appropriate level, or if I was a higher level than them, I don't want to say it was just easy mode, but some of it was pretty easy. Yes, Jay Shako, that is who it was. Yeah. And all of this sounds like really bad. I get it, like maybe to some people, but none of these things to me, I will say, now that I fully completed Final Fantasy, I have a better understanding of the people who were saying, like, I wish there was a little bit more depth here. That I do understand. And I could see how a game like Final Fantasy 16, I mean, it is a Final Fantasy game, it has it's, RPG roots, of course, but I could tell like what people are getting at here. But at the same time, going into this game knowing that they made it clear, like, this is an action RPG, like mostly action oriented. The big hook of Final Fantasy 16 are the icons and the icon abilities. And to me, that really is the standout of the game on top of the story. It was always it still is kind of, because I'm going to mess around with it a little bit more, but it was always very exciting to, unlock new abilities in the game. And these abilities they are legitimate game changers and how you play and how you approach battles. And there's a very healthy amount of strategy, I would say, in how you can mix and match these abilities to make them, you're saying the icon battles are like 100% winnable. I will say, I think it was the third icon battle. I forget the name of the dude that I fought. I really can't remember. He was like that dude with the long hair, and it was like an upper torso. I almost lost against him. But every other one, it was, you could tell the icon battles are mostly for the spectacle. And there is a lot of button mashing. There's no doubt about that. But I don't know. To me, it works well. They pulled it off, and I'm really interested to see what Final Fantasy mode is like, because I won't lie, as I got to, I'd say, the closer to the final act of the game, probably like the last 10 to 15 hours, it did start to feel like it was getting a bit too easy, in terms of, like, I don't know. I felt good about it. Like, I didn't feel bad. I felt like, man, I feel like I've mastered this game. But at the same time, I also kind of felt like, well, I don't know though. It just seems like there's a pattern you find, and when you follow that pattern, as long as you continue to follow it, you really don't, I feel like you'd have to go out of your way to lose. You know what I mean? Something else I want to mention here, just kind of getting in the weeds of Final Fantasy 16. It's interesting. The dodge mechanic is interesting to me. I like it, but you guys tell me if you experience this. When I was playing Final Fantasy 16, I pretty much learned that if I just spam tapping R1, I pretty much am, I don't want to say invincible, but like I will very, very rarely ever get hit. And you're saying the auto dodge ring is OP for harder modes. You know what's interesting is the auto dodge. I actually forgot that was a thing, but it's weird because I feel like the auto dodge ring, it's pretty much just asking you, do you want to not spam R1? You don't have to spam R1. I guess maybe this is just how I chose to do it because it was the most I guess efficient way where, you know, when these enemies are doing their spells or whatever and they're building up their attacks, you can time it and you can just wait to hit R1 at the right time. But there's really no incentive to do that. So, you know, when I start to see like, oh, there's going to be spells casted all around me, I'll just start spamming R1, you know, because I just know that like I don't have to time it. I'll just dodge it. And I'll just keep moving around until they're done their attack. And it did get a little bit too easy. But at the same time, when you get to some of the more difficult boss battles, like some of the later boss battles, I didn't necessarily feel like it was that simple. The number one thing that this game did command is you have to, at least for me, if you don't want it to feel miserable, you have to time your icon abilities accordingly, and you have to actually put thought into how you're going to utilize them, because if you don't, you're just going to be sitting there like you're just going to be facing a an enemy that's a sponge the entire time. You know what I mean? And the icon abilities really are the difference maker there. But generally speaking, I really enjoyed my time with this. I found myself pretty much enjoying almost every battle, most engagements. The pacing is probably the only thing that I struggled with at certain times, mainly because I was doing side quests, which is on me. Again, they're optional. But we have Visual Dragon, a member for 2 months. I don't think Visual Dragon, I don't know. It looks like this was I'm confused right now because it looks like this was a membership super chat here, but there's no text. So I don't know what's up with that. I don't know if it like glitched out or something. So I'm sorry about that, man. It just doesn't have anything there. Did I do any of the bounties, especially the S tier? I did. Yeah, the S tier bounties were fun. They were definitely the most challenging. I think the S tier bounties were actually more challenging than most of the boss battles. I think the icon boss battles were awesome, and I understand that maybe it's not for everybody. Like I can understand why some people don't like that. Sometimes you're just tapping square and you're basically doing QTEs. But I don't know, the spectacle of it just really captured me. And when you were actually doing a proper icon battle where you are playing as Ifrit, you know, and you actually have to like approach it like an actual boss battle, you know, this isn't just a QTE thing. I really enjoyed that, and it was really fun. I'll tell you right now, if I wasn't enjoying Final Fantasy 16, I certainly wouldn't have put 73 hours. I'm probably gonna, I don't know, I could see myself probably getting to the 100-hour mark with this game if I'm gonna try to go for all of the trophies. But generally speaking, I thoroughly enjoyed the game. Saying Titan and Bahamut are hands down some of the best boss battles in video game history. Yeah, dude, they really are. The Titan one was wild. Like the Titan, I'm not gonna spoil anything. It's really hard not to. I don't think it's necessary. Well, I'll just say that the Titan boss battle, and I think this happens with most of the boss battles. It's kind of one of those situations where you think it's over and you think you've won, and it's not. And they take it to a level where I was just like, holy shit, dude! Like this is insane. And then when the music hits, man, it was awesome. Saying that one was never ending. Yeah, man. I'm not going to spoil the ending. Just because people are asking me my thoughts on the ending. I think it delivered, and I will say that I think it delivered, man. It definitely was a bit of a tearjerker, but there are multiple times in this game where it is like that. But it was the ending battles, again, I'm not going to spoil anything. It gets crazy. And I probably just leave it there, because if I say any more, I'm going to end up spoiling something, and I don't want to do that, because I know that there are a lot of people who still haven't beat the game, but I enjoyed the ending. I found it satisfactory, and when I decide to talk about it more in depth and go into spoiler territory, there certainly are some things that I want to say and some questions I would like to ask. Actually, you're saying it's an 8 out of 10 for you? Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'd have to give it. If I had to rate the game, I don't usually. I try not to do that, because I feel like, I don't know, I always feel bad just giving a number to a game. Because there are like aspects of this game that are definitely like 10 out of 10 that are just like, they will. There are moments in this game that I will kind of always think about. And that, to me, that means something. Like, I feel like there are many games I played where I don't really ever think about them. Sometimes maybe I've even forgotten that I played them, But to me, what makes for a really good game is a memorable game, is a game that I know, like, there are things that will always, like, when I think of some of the best moments I had in gaming, no doubt about it, some of the things I've experienced in Final Fantasy 16 will be filed under that category. So here's the big thing for me. Here's the big thing about Final Fantasy 16. And I think when I play it on Final Fantasy mode, I might take a different approach. A part of me feels like this game would have been between a 9 or a 10 out of 10 if I really didn't do any of the side quests. And by side quests, I'm not talking about the hunts. The hunts are different. I thought the hunts were fun. The hunts are like extra boss battles, like optional boss battles. The reason why I'm saying the side quests is because, as a completionist, basically this is the structure of the game. You have, like, because there is a pattern and a structure to it. You basically do a main story path, and you go through that path. That path ends with a big ultra climactic boss battle, which is like certainly the peak of the game. Multiple phase boss battle, and then after that happens, everything kind of comes back down to a standstill. And you have two options. You can either continue on the main story and you kind of rinse and repeat that specific formula that is attached to the main story itself, or you can do all the side quests that pop up. And I decided, again, as a completionist, to do every single side quest every time they popped up. And some of them, I will say, seem necessary, because some of the side quests, they actually upgrade your gear and whatnot. But they let you know that, hey, this specific side quest is going to give you some kind of upgrade, so you might want to do it. Whereas all the other ones make it clear you're just going to get like extra experience and, I forgot what, like, battle points or something I forget what they're called, but for the icon abilities. I really feel like I would have enjoyed the game more if I just played through the story and didn't really and only did the side quests that were to upgrade your gear. Because I don't want to say that they were bad, because it's not so much that they were bad as much as I think the side quests were very, very poorly paced. That is my biggest problem. Well, some of them I will tell you, some side quests straight up just seem pointless. But a lot of them, I appreciated what they were trying to do. What the side quests try to do is flesh out the world and the characters in that world more naturally. You know, it really tries to give you a sense of you're getting to know these different characters in these different areas of the world. And if you do all the side quests, you definitely get a much better sense of, I feel like I understand all of Valsthea, right? Or is it Valsthea, and everybody and all of its inhabitants and all the details. But again, my problem isn't even so much the side quests as much as they were just so poorly paced, in my opinion. And the ending of the game, the last act of the game, revealed that to me the most, because what they did was, you know, right before you are about to complete the game, they basically throw a bunch of side quests at you. Again, they're all optional. So I don't want to condemn the game too much because they're not telling you have to do it. It's just there for people who want to do it. And so my experience with that is I saw like 10, I think it was like 10 plus or something side quests pop up. And I kind of sighed a little bit because I'm like, damn, like, you know, I know I'm going to do all of these because I'm trying to complete everything. But a part of me felt like I really don't, I kind of don't want to do all of these. And it really did kind of drag on to where I was like, pretty much, okay, thank God I got through all of those side quests. Now I can get to the part that I was waiting for. And it was worth the wait, of course. But now I'm just very interested to do a second playthrough where I've experienced everything in the game. I want to know what this story feels like when I'm just going from story beat to story beat to story beat, because yeah, I just feel like the side quest kind of got in the way of that a little bit. And that to me is I don't want to say that it, I mean, I don't know, I guess because I'm trying to think about it before I say it. I don't know if what I'm about to say is true or not. We'll never know. Or maybe I will know when I play my second playthrough. I really do wonder if this game would have been better served by basically cutting, like, not all of the side quests, but over 50% of them. Because I just don't know what the purpose of a lot of them was. You know, there were just some side quests where it really felt like they were like, well, we got to like kind of, you know, we got to draw this out a little bit more, you know, we got to keep players involved a little bit more. And I don't know, I just wish, because I'm really trying to not make it sound like it's that bad, because again, I need to understand that you don't have to do the side quests. I know that most people are not like me. And the developers probably know that. Like, the developers know that most people are just going to play the story beats. And if you're somebody who just plays the story beats, you're probably going to feel, you're not going to feel anything because you didn't even experience the side quest. But it just makes me feel like, you know, this game would have been better served if somebody, I don't know, at the development team, whoever was in charge of the side quest, was like, you know what, maybe we should like cut half of these. You're saying good luck on Final Fantasy mode. Fights will take way longer. So much extra HP on enemies. Oof. Yeah, I'm concerned, man. Like, is it that difficult? Well, you know, you're making it sound like it's not difficult, but it's a battle of attrition, basically. Like, you just gotta. I have to admit, I'm very curious how much more difficult Final Fantasy mode is compared to the regular mode. You're saying that's not true? You kill enemies with one stagger? Well, I'm level, I think either 48 or 49. I know that in Final Fantasy mode they say you can go up to level 100, which is crazy to me. Interesting. One last thing I'll say, because I don't want to, again, I don't want to go on too long about Final Fantasy just because I don't know. I didn't even make it clear that I was going to be talking about Final Fantasy in the stream. I just want to talk about the icon abilities real quick and just talk about my experience with them so far and like which ones I really like. So my favorite icon abilities thus far are Titan, Shiva, and what is the, I don't know why I forget his name. The wizard. The purple wizard. What's his name? You're saying I came from Zetazukin. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Level 5 is a must when there are a lot of enemies to deal with. Ramu. Yeah, there. Yeah, Ramu. Also, shout out to Sid. Don't want to spoil anything. But Sid is one of the better characters I think I've come across in a game in a long time. I love Clive. I love Joshua. You know, I love all the characters like Jill, but I feel like the standout character in this game to me was Sid. He's an awesome character. Saying Sid has become your favorite Sid in all Final Fantasy games. Yeah, story was good, man. The story was good. But those are the three that I've kind of found myself gravitating towards, where I basically use Shiva's abilities to really kind of knock down the stamina bar and whatnot, and then I use Titan and Ramu to just dole out damage. The other abilities, I mean, I'm trying to think. So the one that I think I struggled with the most, and I'm gonna have to experiment with, is Odin. His abilities are interesting, but I feel like there's a certain way you're supposed to play with his abilities that I haven't quite figured out yet. Obviously, I like the Phoenix's abilities. I like Ifrit's abilities. Bahamut's abilities are interesting too. I like Bahamut's ability where you can just kind of, I forget what it's called, but you just press circle and you basically fly around slowly, like building up charging up your I don't know, just like this, you're gonna kind of like rain down these, not like fireballs. Yeah, the flare. I forget the name of like everything in this game for some reason, but I like that. Yeah, the mega flare. I like it. I like how unique all of them feel. Like, to me, this is like the highlight of the game, and why I understand that a lot of people are like, I don't know. They don't like the fact that it's action oriented, but I feel like, I don't know, man. Zantetsuken. I think I'm saying that correctly. I see people saying that you got to go for like level 5 of that. Like, if you get that to level 5, it's OP. Yeah, maybe that's the trick with Odin's ability. I'll have to give that a shot. Saying it's really OP. Interesting. Yeah, because I think I played around with it a little bit, but I can only get it up to level 3 at most. So, Lock PSB are saying Major Nelson is leaving Xbox. Damn, that's crazy. Never thought I'd see the day, man. Hasn't Major Nelson been with Xbox since the beginning? Was that just announced or something? Huh. That's kind of a surprise. If you go Zan 5 once, you never go back. I'll have to check this out then. Because I remember somebody mentioning something, one of these abilities being overpowered, and I forget which one they mentioned, and I'm beginning to think that that's the ability. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to playing Final Fantasy mode. Berserker Ring, I think that's what I'm using, yeah. Saying you have to agree that the combat is fun but very simple and easy. Yeah, it is simple. It is very simplistic, and I just feel like the simplicity is okay because of the variety in term like once you unlock all the icon abilities. But yeah, this game did that thing where by the time I got close to the end, I definitely felt not totally OP, but just like slightly OP. Did I use any assist rings? I did not. No. The only assist ring that I thought about, are my cats fighting with each other? The only assist ring that I thought about using at the beginning was the one for Torgal, but then I kind of realized like it's kind of pointless because Torgal kind of does his own thing, you know? Like I don't really need to direct him. He'll do his own thing. You're saying Square Enix didn't want to shock Final Fantasy purists too much. That's why it's a bit easy. That would make sense. You're saying the variety doesn't have any difference. There's no elemental weaknesses. That's true. That's true. I don't know that I mind that though, because it leaves room for you to use what you enjoy the most. And that is one thing I kind of appreciate it, because I did think that at some point they were going to basically force me, like, you have to start using specific combinations. But they never do that. They basically just say, like, use whatever you're comfortable with and whatever you enjoy. And I'll be honest, like that has not made it so that I'm avoiding using other combinations. It definitely doesn't, because it doesn't force you to use different combinations. I understand that maybe some people are less likely to try them out, but I don't know, man. I feel like you'd have to be crazy to unlock a new icon ability and not go try it out. Saying elemental weaknesses would not work in Final Fantasy 16. Why not offer a hard mode up front? Yeah, that's a little... That I don't understand. I'm not sure what the point of that is. Well, one thing I can say for sure, and then I'll move on to the Horizon topic after this, but one thing I can say for sure about Final Fantasy 16 is it set out to do something very specific, and I think it achieved it. Again, for better or for worse, I do understand now that I've played entirely through it and I've done everything in the game. I can understand why there are just some people who walked away from it being like, I don't know that this was it for me. I get it. But what it set out to achieve certainly appeals to me. I don't know that I look at Final Fantasy 16 as this is one of the all-time greatest games I've ever played. I don't know that I could say this is like a top 5 game for me or top 3. But what I can say is pretty much what I said earlier, where there are moments in this game that when I think, many years down the line, when I'm thinking about some of my favorite gaming experiences, some of these boss battles and some of just the over-the-top craziness of this game will certainly, I imagine, it will appear in my head and I will remember it, be like, oh, yeah, I remember that. But generally speaking, it was an awesome game, man. And this is coming from somebody who has minimal experience with Final Fantasy. The question that I think people are going to ask me specifically, because I have played FF7 Remake, is, do you feel, MBG, that Final Fantasy 16 was better than 7 Remake? And that's a tough one, because I feel like they both have strengths that are so strong, it just kind of makes me wish that they both shared those strengths. Like in Final Fantasy VII Remake, just generally speaking, the combat feels better. And what I mean by that is I forget what they call it. It's not a turn-based system, but you're saying, did you finish all the Chronolith trials? I actually didn't. I don't even know what those are. I did see there was a trophy for that. What are those? have to tell me what those are. Active time battle, ATB. Yeah, I knew that they had a specific name for it. I think I like the ATB system better because it just feels so good. The combat in FF16 definitely feels good, but the one thing that Final Fantasy 16 has that 7 Remake doesn't, I know like in 7 Remake, you have like the limit break you can use and stuff and your special abilities, and that all feels good and you can play as the other characters. But these icon abilities are just so well done. You know, that to me is it. I don't know. I know that can't work in Final Fantasy 7 Remake or Rebirth, but it just kind of, I don't know. It has its own unique flair, its own unique spin, its own unique strength, I guess you could say. And I really did enjoy the story of 16. I think that the characterization, they did get me to care about these characters. And Final Fantasy VII Remake did the same thing with their characters, but there is one major difference between the tone. It's the tone of the story. I did really appreciate that with 16, even though it didn't really land every time, and sometimes it definitely felt a little bit forced, but the heavier tone, the more serious tone of 16, I really did appreciate. Even though in 7 Remake there are definitely some serious tones, but 7 Remake's also much more lighthearted in a lot of different ways, which isn't bad. But I did appreciate that in 16. So I don't know, man. I feel like I ultimately enjoyed 7 Remake a little bit more when it's all said and done. And I think that really comes down to probably, like I said, the side quests. You know? You're saying MBG, the chronoliths are like time trial levels. They're very hard to finish. Uh-oh. Now I'm getting a little stressed. Now I'm getting a little stressed. We'll see. We'll see. Where do you activate them? Oh, you know what? I remember I know there's like that one spot in the hideaway where you can go to practice and train, and at the very bottom there was like a option that wasn't unlocked yet. It just had question marks. I wonder if that's what it is. But yeah, I completed Final Fantasy 16. Now I'm going to work my way towards the platinum. I'm hoping I can stream it for you guys for a little bit soon, which would be nice. And I really enjoyed it, man. I feel like this year for PlayStation hasn't been the strongest thus far. You know, the first half, Forspoken didn't do so well, and then we have PlayStation VR 2, which is fine, but obviously it's not going to be for everybody. And so the first half of 2023 for PlayStation really wasn't the strongest. And that's why, I was really looking forward to Final Fantasy 16 because it just felt like this is really going to be where 2023 kicks off for me for PlayStation. And it didn't disappoint, man. It did not disappoint. So good stuff. Saying you can find them scattered in the world. They look like the stone inside the hideaway. Oh, okay. I think I see somebody saying you can see them on the map. Oh, I had no idea. I must have just completely overlooked them. Oh, wait, hold on. Are they like the obelisks that you just travel to, or are they separate? I'm sure I'll figure it out. But I saw that there were like 2 trophies for that, and I was surprised that I didn't. They're separate. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look into it. With that being said, though, I'm now going to move on to the next topic. I'll talk more about Final Fantasy at another time, and I'll go more and I'll make it known that we're going to enter spoiler territory, so we can talk more deeply about some of the things that happen. You're saying Bahamut's Giga Flare is OP. You can do massive damage with it. Yeah, I'll have to play around with Bahamut a little bit more too. All right. So the second topic we're moving on to, we're talking about the Horizon series. And before we do that, we have Hellbound 1981 jumping in and gifting 5 memberships. Let's get some W's in the chat for Hellbound 1981 doing it again. Seriously, thank you guys. I mean, we have a lot of heavy gifters, I guess is what I should call them, that continually show up here. They continually show up here, and they just dole out these membership gifts, man. So, Hellbound, thank you so much, man. Another 5 gifts handed out to this community. Really appreciate it, man. That brings us up to 24, just one away from hitting the 25 goal. So if somebody wants to follow up Hellbound, crush this goal today, by all means. And let me give you a. I know Hellbound. I think you like the Arnolds, right? All right. But yeah, we're gonna talk about Horizon. Let me bring this up here. Let me see. So yeah, I have an article here from PlayStation Lifestyle, and it reads, Guerrilla Games says it will be continuing Horizon for a long while. Before I read the entire article, we have Jay Pierce jumping in. Jay Pierce does it. He gets us over the line. Jay Pierce gets us to 25 members on the day. Huge shout out to Jay. Guys, let's get some more W's in the chat. Have to update the goal here. I'll just do it in increments of, I guess 10 would be good, right? I think 10 is fine. So thank you so much for that, Jay. Appreciate that. Where are we at here? We're at 25. There we go. Again, thank you guys so much for the continued support here. We're going to read this article. They say it was already clear that Guerrilla Games has more in store for the Horizon franchise. The studio reiterated that notion at a recent event, saying Horizon will be going on for some time. A handful of Guerrilla Games employees spoke at the Develop Brighton event, as reported by GamesIndustry.biz. After reflecting on development stories related to both Horizon games, studio director and art director Jan Bart van Beek said Guerrilla will be, quote, continuing Horizon for a long while. Some of these plans have already been confirmed, while others have been strongly implied. Guerrilla said that it was working on a stylized Horizon multiplayer game, footage of which allegedly leaked in January. There's also a Netflix series in the works. A proper Horizon 3 hasn't been outright confirmed, but Guerrilla has talked about it, around it enough. It noted that Aloy will return and that the developer is expanding the world of Horizon with Aloy's next adventure, the latter of which was a quote in the aforementioned post about the job listings that confirm the multiplayer spinoff. Horizon Forbidden West cliffhanger ending is another clear indicator that a third installment is on the way. There's also reportedly a massive multiplayer online game in development with NCSoft and a PS5 remake or remaster of Horizon Zero Dawn. Maybe they'll call it a director's cut, but neither have been confirmed. With the studio committing to Horizon for the long haul, it seems doubtful that it would return to Killzone anytime soon or develop a new franchise. Guerrilla spoke about the shooter series during this event, reflecting on what did and didn't work and noting how invigorating it was to work on Horizon. So this is what they said. Killzone was our first IP, testing all our ideas, seeing how things worked. There were some great ideas in there, but also some that never really worked. We had this idea that was based upon franchises like Aliens, where it's all about the bad guys, and what we found out was that people still really need a hero to clamp onto, to identify with. So when you're making a whole IP about these baddies, it's hard to do good storytelling. That was something we definitely took on board. Idiosyncrasies that meant it never really gelled with them. So when we were making Horizon, we were looking at a much broader audience and telling a bigger story that's relevant to a lot more people. Technical director Michael Vanderloo also expressed an urge to move on after the PS4 launch of Killzone Shadowfall. He says, after Killzone Shadowfall for the PlayStation 4, we knew we wanted a bigger, broader IP. We also wanted something positive. We'd been making Ruins for a little bit too long, and the studio got really excited about making nature. Everyone was really excited about robots. There were many things we could do with the same universe, different games, different styles. So there's something else, though, that I want to read to you guys. Let me bring it up here. Where is it? So I have another article here from Push Square, and it says Guerrilla's PS5 and PS4 Horizon multiplayer game is a massive shift for the studio. It says development on Guerrilla's multiplayer adaptation of Horizon represents, quote, a massive shift for the studio, almost on the same level as doing the first game in the series, end quote. That's according to the studio director, Jan Bart Van Beek, who was talking at a keynote, the one we just referenced. The veteran, unsurprisingly, wouldn't comment too much on the co-op game, but said the team is excited about the project and relishing the opportunity. Quote, building out a two-player experience is a whole new challenge for the studio, end quote, he revealed. Van Beek added that the Dutch developer has approximately 16 plans for the franchise, quote, clicking on, end quote, including the aforementioned multiplayer game. And so, a couple of things to note here. Number one, it sounds like this multiplayer game from Horizon is more ambitious than we thought. Number two, they're mentioning that it's a co-op game specifically, which is interesting because I mean, they specifically say like, you know, a two-player experience. It really makes me wonder, like, is this, I don't know why they use that specifically. When they say a two-player experience, are they literally saying like this multiplayer game's just going to be two players? Or is that just, you know, a weird way of saying it's going to be multiplayer or multiple people in co-op? And Grady, sorry, man, I missed this while I was reading the article. We have Grady coming in, keeping the membership train going. Grady drops a membership gift of his own. Huge shout out to you, man. I'll give you Keanu for that. I'll give you a little crazy Arnold laugh as well, dude. Thank you for keeping the membership train going. We're at 26 new members on the day. Let's see if we can keep that going while we continue to talk about Horizon. Something else that was mentioned that is quite, I don't know if it's shocking, but it sure sounds like it. They say they have 16 plans. Now, make no mistake, Guerrilla is not saying that we have 16 Horizon games in development. Obviously, that's not the case. When they say 16 plans, this just means, I mean, it could mean anything. It could mean the TV series. It could mean comics. It could mean any type of merchandise. It could mean anything, really. And they're just basically trying to convey that Guerrilla is all in on Horizon. And I really don't know how most people feel about this. Jay Pierce jumps in again and gifts yet another membership. Huge shout out to you, Jay. Really appreciate it, dude. I'm going to give you a Mark Cerny
to rely on
and a Kratos. Mark Cerny and Kratos combo there. W's in the chat for Jay. He brings us up to 27 members on the day, making our way ever closer to the goal. Uh-oh. My thing's a little glitched out here. That's weird. I don't think it's ever glitched out like that. So how are we feeling, guys, about Guerrilla making it clear that they're just all in with Horizon and we can expect a lot more Horizon from them? Is that something you're excited about? Is that something you're not excited about? Oops. All right, there we go. I think I fixed it. Saying it's too much. I think they should create a farming sim in the world of Horizon. Oh man, that would be crazy. Never going to watch/play Horizon again. Horizon's really good. Give me more. Exley says I'm not thrilled. Kind of over Horizon at this point. Hellbound says I like Horizon, but also liked Killzone. Smurf says I love Horizon, but it's a shame that Killzone seems to be permanently on ice. Yeah, I don't want to like jump to an extreme reaction here. And I don't think this is an extreme reaction at all. My feelings on this, I like Horizon, but Horizon is not my favorite PlayStation franchise. I have kind of, I don't know, I feel kind of strange about this. I feel kind of strange about Guerrilla coming out and basically making it clear that we're just Horizon now. Like, that's all we're going to do. That's all we do. That's all we're going to do. Because a part of me feels like, but I know Horizon Zero Dawn was a big success. And I know Forbidden West was also a pretty big success. But I think they are... I think they're getting a little in over their head here. I think they're overestimating like how much people like the world of Horizon. And that is not... I'm not trying to throw shade at Horizon because, again, I like it, but I think it's just interesting to me that they are basically like, well, we had 2 successful Horizon games, so clearly that means everyone just wants more Horizon constantly going forward, and that is a little bit upsetting to me. And this is where the concern of how how Jim Ryan is running PlayStation kind of. I don't know if this is Jim Ryan's. I'm not saying it's his fault. Could just be Guerrilla and what they want to do. But you're saying wasn't Santa Monica just God of War? Yeah, but here's the thing, though. The thing about Santa Monica just being God of War is there have been gaps. You know what I mean? Like, what we are basically being told by Guerrilla is they're going to oversaturate the market with Horizon. And I understand why they're choosing to do this because it works, unfortunately. That's the thing you're saying. People will get Horizon fatigue. They might. But people have been saying that about successful franchises for a long time now. And it works both ways. There are some franchises that there seems to never be fatigue. But then there are others where that's all it is. And this is kind of what's frustrating these days with successful franchises is they're never allowed to rest. Successful franchises are never allowed to rest. You're saying they're about to do that with Ghost of Tsushima. And this is where I realize I feel differently about something like Ghost of Tsushima because Ghost of Tsushima, I guess I just like that world more. I guess I'm just more easily drawn to that world, those characters, and the potential surrounding it than I am, say, Horizon. I was like kind of under the impression that Guerrilla was going to do Horizon 3, and then they're going to do a Horizon multiplayer game. And then after that, they're going to like maybe move on to something new. But now after they say like, well, that's important. Edward says the thing you have to remember is that they said 16 ideas, meaning not all of them will come to fruition. Okay, that is true. That is true. They said Horizon is a trilogy. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't want to like jump to conclusions here because it is true. When he says 16 things, I like that number is really high. Like that number is concerningly high. I just don't know that Guerrilla should back themselves into a corner. I guess that's what I'm trying to say because it's true that Sony Santa Monica is the God of War studio. They always have been. But there are two things to keep in mind. Number one, as I said, God of War has had gaps in between it. Like there have been periods of time where it kind of took a little bit of a rest, and that I think helped it tremendously. They didn't oversaturate the market with God of War. At least it doesn't seem like it. They did to me, or at least they spread it out to a degree. They weren't just. I don't get that feeling with God of War, but there's also the fact that Santa Monica has confirmed that they're working on something brand new. Finally, took them long enough, but they're working. Cory Barlog's working on something new. And this is going to be the first new project we get from Sony Santa Monica since ever, really. And that's very exciting. And I feel like that is exactly what we need. And I feel like this is the perfect time, right? We got God of War 2018. We got God of War Ragnarok pretty much back to back. And they were amazing games. And they closed out that specific, setting. And I think they did it perfectly, or as close to perfectly as you can get. The idea that now they're going to come out with something brand new, it's amazing. Obviously God of War is not going anywhere. We are going to get more God of War. No doubt about that. But just the fact that we're also going to get something brand new in between, that's how it should be, I think, with all studios, man. In my opinion, anyway. It's tough, dude. It's a tough call. I think that it just comes down to which franchise, which universe do you like more? Because I don't know if you guys saw, but there were leaks for the Horizon multiplayer game. There were leaks for the Horizon multiplayer game, and it pretty much looks like Horizon with a Fortnite / Genshin Impact skin on top of it, which is insane to me. I won't lie to you. I see somebody saying, B Flesher saying, Guerilla tech is breathtaking, and in my opinion, it's a shame to see it used only on Horizon games. Death Stranding 2 is going to use the same engine, but well, yeah, we will get Death Stranding 2, but that's what's weird. Like the weirdest, strangest thing to me about this Horizon multiplayer game is that they made the decision they want it to be stylized. And that to me is almost like offensive, because it's like, you guys have like possibly the best looking game out there. You have tech that is producing just an absolutely mind-bogglingly good looking game. Why not just basically do that for your multiplayer experience as well? But instead they decided they wanted to, and this is why I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have much interest in this Horizon multiplayer game, because when I think to myself, like, why would you go for that stylized look for your Horizon game? The Genshin Impact / Fortnite look. To me, there's only one reason. And that is because you're not trying to appeal to the enthusiasts, the people, the actual fan base. You're trying to make it more appealing to, a more casual audience. You're saying so it can run on mid-range PCs. Yeah. That, you know what? That is true. That is true. It is going to launch on PC. No doubt about that. Saying Fortnite and Unreal Engine 5 looks kind of nice. Well, that's the thing. I don't want to like shit on an art style, because I respect different art styles. Like I think a stylized look can look great. I'm just confused why it's going to be in the Horizon universe. You get what I'm saying? Because I don't know, man. I look at Forbidden West and I'm like, now just imagine that, but multiplayer. But maybe that is why, man. I don't know. Maybe it is because they're going to release it on PC. I don't know. Saying is Horizon gritty or dark? I don't think it even has blood. No, I wouldn't describe Horizon as gritty or dark. I would just describe it as pretty much beautiful. It's like it's a beautiful looking game. But yeah, it's definitely not like, the Horizon multiplayer game to me, based off of the leaks. I mean, those leaks are old. They were like it was like from a 2020 build, so it could have changed completely. But there was like a piece of concept art. I think that piece of concept art definitely it literally looked like Fortnite. It literally looked like Fortnite in Horizon. I don't know, man. I don't know, dude. I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried. I won't lie. I'm not gonna fear monger or anything because I'm not that worried. Like I think Horizon will be fine. I just don't know that the Horizon series is as popular as Guerilla think. Well, I don't say as popular, but the question is simple when it comes to Horizon. Did it peak? Did Horizon peak? Because if it peaked already, then I don't know that they're going to go much. I don't know that they're going to be able to do much going forward in a really meaningful way. But if it didn't peak, then I think they might be making the right decision. But I don't know. Saying they can change it, use the same universe, revitalize it like God of War. You're saying the franchise just came out, LMAO. Well, I wouldn't say just came out, dude. I mean, it is newer. Yeah, it came out in 2017. But I don't know, man. I'm not sure, dude. I don't know. It's difficult for me to gauge. I guess I feel like more confident in other franchises. I feel more confident in the Last of Us universe. I feel more confident even in Ghost of Tsushima's universe. I feel more confident in God of War, obviously. I mean, that's a little unfair though. I don't know. You're saying when it sells 8 million, it's hard to say it peaked. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think it might just be me. I think it might be me. You're saying the franchise already sold over 30 million? Yeah. Yeah, that's true. When I look at the data and the numbers, I think it makes it clear that I think it's not that I don't like the Horizon games. It's just that I mean, I played Forbidden West. I put it like 100 hours into it. I think 90 or 100 hours. Got the platinum. Ended up not playing the DLC, unfortunately. But I don't know. I guess I don't feel that excitement anymore. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just because I just got done playing Forbidden West. It would be like if Sony said they were doing something with God of War right now. I don't know that I would jump for joy because it's like it's been less than a year since I beat, Ragnarok. Like I'm good for a while, I don't need more God of War right now. And I think that might be why this news is kind of rubbing me the wrong way because it's like it's kind of messed up, right? Look at the topics we're talking about today. We're talking about more Horizon, and then we're also talking about, and this is going to be the next topic in line, apparently The Last of Us Part 2 director's cut. And this is coming after basically major complaints at PlayStation Showcase where it's like, where are the new games that are not live service? Like, where are the new games? And I feel like that's where, if you look at what we got, we're coming off of Horizon Forbidden West. We're coming off of The Last of Us Part 1. We're coming off of The Last of Us Part 2 in 2020. It's like, I don't think that people are beginning to dislike these franchises. I really don't believe that because the numbers prove that they're doing just fine. The numbers prove, as we said, that, The Last of Us as a franchise is doing fine. Horizon as a franchise is doing fine. I think the real problem is, at least for people like us, the enthusiasts, the fan base, the people who are paying attention, it just is getting a little bit like, okay, that's great that you guys have big ambitions for Horizon. but we really would just like to start talking about some other games. You know what I mean? And Sony has been, I don't know, man. Sony's been withholding that for one reason or another. But generally speaking, when it comes to Horizon, man, I'm going to try my best to be open-minded. And I think that's just fair. We know that Guerilla has a certain expertise in multiplayer because of their history with Killzone. So that gives me some confidence that they might make a great multiplayer game. I am a little bit nervous, obviously, about the art style, about, just everything about it that could go wrong. But I'm going to try to be open-minded. I'm going to give them a chance. I think Guerilla has at least earned that. Guerilla at least deserves a chance to show what it is that they're working on and show us, hey, this is our multiplayer game. This is what it's going to be. This is what we're trying to get people to play. B Flesh, you're saying, but they haven't sold as well as their first game. All these franchises have had a drop off except God of War, which is probably their best franchise. Saying you think Ghost of Tsushima 2 could be huge. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of momentum. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with these franchises. I feel like it's about the momentum. Maybe talking about it in the terms of whether or not something peaked or not isn't correct. Maybe it's about the momentum. Saying just look at your viewership today on these topics, MVG. People are tired of Horizon and The Last of Us. Well, to be fair, most Fridays are not great for viewership in general. But yeah, I won't lie. I'm not super enthralled with these topics. When I was looking around thinking about, what can I talk about today if I do a stream or if I do a video, what are the topics in regards to PlayStation that are relevant right now? This is it. These is pretty much it. And even me, I'm interested in having this conversation and talking to you guys, but they're not very exciting topics. There's no doubt about that. I don't know when the topics regarding PlayStation are going to get exciting. Frankly, I don't think the topics for PlayStation have been very exciting pretty much since May when we were building up to that showcase. And even, after that, it just kind of, I don't know, things kind of, I don't say it fell off a cliff, but again, it just feels like Sony went dark again, and there's a lot of other stuff going on in the industry right now. There was Final Fantasy, which is certainly nice. But yeah, it's just we're still in this weird, awkward position with PlayStation as enthusiasts, as fans, where we just don't know what they're planning to do. We just don't know. I mean, we kind of have the year set for us, which is nice, but outside of this year, we still, I don't know, I forget who's always mentioning the roadmap, but we still don't have the roadmap. We hear things like this from Guerilla. They say we got 16 different things we're thinking of doing with Horizon. We're hearing about, and I'm going to talk about this in just a moment, A Last of Us Part 2 Director's Cut, and so I won't lie, it does kind of start to take the wind out of the sails a little bit, because it's like we just got The Last of Us Part 1. Like we just got, yeah, that's Capono. You're saying that's me, roadmap. I knew it was. I was like, is that Capono? That's true. Actually, you're saying we have Rise of the Ronin early 2020. Yeah, and that's the thing about it, though, isn't it? Like we learned about that through a leak, isn't it? Which is kind of crazy. But you're right. We, in terms of games that are going to be coming, it's looking really good. It's just there's silence, and that silence. And I'm not kind of talking about yesterday's topic briefly, where I was talking about marketing and how I would just prefer things to speak for themselves. I still stand by what I said. I do want things to speak for. I want these products to speak for themselves. I don't want them to just be like propped up and just it be totally exaggerated. But at the same time, like that doesn't mean I'm also hoping for complete silence, because there is silence on the horizon. Yeah, that's what's bothering me a little bit right now. Is it's not that things are not happening or not going to happen. It's just the things that we are eager to learn more about, we still have to just sit back and remain patient, and that's fine. I can be patient about it. Um, but saying MBG Gamescom opening night live, we could see Death Stranding 2. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that is happening. What, next month, I think, in August? Maybe they're pulling a Nintendo. Nintendo likes to tell you stuff is coming out sometime next year and then silence until like 3 months out. They could be. Well, again, it all kind of hinges on whether or not Sony's going to do another showcase this year, right? I feel like that is really something that is not at the forefront of people's minds right now, because it shouldn't be. It's the middle of July. You know, things are not meant to be kind of popping off right now. They never really do in July. It's rare. But I just still I don't know, man. It is just so weird to me to think that, oh yeah, PlayStation did have a showcase this year. It wasn't even that long ago. It was less than 2 months ago. It was less than 2 months ago, but yet it still feels weird where it's like they did do that, didn't they? But it's just the fact that it didn't deliver what it was meant to deliver, and because of that, it just kind of, again, I feel like we're just kind of in this limbo, this limbo with PlayStation, where it's not bad. It's not like everything's on fire. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you look on the internet and listen to trolls, like they'll tell you PlayStation's literally in its grave right now, which is, yeah, whatever. But it's also not ideal either. You know what I mean? It's just kind of in this limbo, really. And I think a lot of people are waiting to hear more about Spider-Man, obviously. And actually, I think in just about a week, we're going to get some news on. You're saying yet sales increase over 40% in Europe, LOL. Yeah, that's what's crazy about it. I don't know. That, to me, that's kind of the catch-22 of it, where, I don't know, man. Maybe, even though it seems from my perspective that we're in this limbo state and Sony's being too quiet, not too quiet, but they're just, they pop out and then they go back into the shadows for a while. Maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe it's just working for them. Arnie Vesper, thank you for the super chat, man. You're saying, do you look forward to Stellar Blade? I do. Well, I know why you do. I know why you're looking forward to Stellar Blade. I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about Stellar Blade. Like, I feel like it's a bit much for me, honestly, in terms of just like it's got like this anime thing going on. But then I see the gameplay and the combat, and I'm like, maybe I could get into this. Maybe I could. Stellar Cheeks. Yeah, they should rename the game the Stellar Cheeks. That's funny, man. I want to see more Rise of the Ronin. That's what I would like to see. Rise of the Ronin looks really good. Let me see here. So, oh yeah, God, you know what? Oh my God, I totally forgot to mention this to you guys. I totally forgot to mention. So, have you guys noticed that now? Really quick, Arnie Vesper with another super chat says, "You're laughing. You're saying that is just a nice little bonus. Looks good." Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Did you guys happen to notice that Twitter is now beginning to roll out revenue? Like, they're beginning to pay Twitter Blue people who were tweeting, basically, based on impressions and stuff. People are making some damn good money on Twitter. And I'm like, oh shit. MBG about to tweet more. Dude, I'm about to go crazy on Twitter, is what I'm about to do. I'm about to go crazy on Twitter. Because Twitter, I've been talking to you guys for so long about how I don't know what the point of Twitter is. It doesn't do anything for me. I mean, people have said like it probably, brings people to your channel. But I started seeing like, I don't know. I think people like worked out, you get like, some people are saying you get anywhere between $10 and $20 per million, per 1 million impressions. And I don't know, man. Like I've been quiet on Twitter for a little while. At least it seems like it. And there are like waves on Twitter, kind of like on YouTube, where just sometimes, I don't know, people are more engaged at certain times compared to others. But yeah, dude, I don't know. I'm about to go crazy on Twitter and just it's gonna get nuts. It's gonna get nuts. I'm about to do it, man. But you know what I thought of that really, I was like, no way, man. And I haven't seen anybody mention this, and I don't blame them, because it's a weird thing to just kind of, but it popped in my head. This popped into my head. Do you guys remember that Twitter account, Nibelian? I forget, he had like hundreds of thousands of followers, but he like, I don't know, he was like a go-to source for gaming news. And he was like one of the most popular people on Twitter. Oh my God. Dude, he left Twitter and he ended up deleting his account. I think it was right after Elon Musk bought Twitter. And he was basically saying because he's just doing this work for free and it's not working out for him. And he just was like, I'm moving on now. Oh my God, dude. I can't even imagine. Because if he had kept his account, he'd be probably making easily tens of thousands of dollars, but probably more than that. That's insane. That's insane. You're saying Exoprimal is a flop? Tweet about Blue Box. Yeah, I think in order to make money on Twitter, you have to be a Twitter Blue member for, I think it says 3 months, which is so annoying. And I don't know. I don't know if there's any other requirement. Saying Exoprimal is DOA. Exoprimal's not going to have, I don't think that game is going to have legs, man. I don't think that's going to have legs. Nibelian coming back. He should, dude. MBG on Christmas about to tweet Series S again. Oh, dude. If I made money on my tweets, you don't even know. I have walked the line on Twitter for a long time, and I've just held back just because it's just not worth it. Like it's literally not worth it. I'm not unless I literally just want to be a dick for the sake of being a dick, which I don't. But when I'm seeing some of the payouts that people are getting, and just this idea that all I got to do is just tweet and just get people's attention, I'm like, all right, here we go. So I'm seriously going to be looking into that, man, because I feel like I've been waiting for this day, man. Like, I feel like I'm going to be able to literally monetize my haters. And that is, I've blocked so many people on Twitter and whatnot, and I wish I didn't, because it's just like, dude, I could just, oh my God. Like, it's so easy. That's the thing, man. It's literally so easy. And I'm just like, all I got to do is just take 10 seconds to boom. And I could have them all lined up too. Oh, man. Saying literally never been on Twitter and haven't been on Facebook in over a decade. Nothing wrong with that, man. Save yourself the headache. Unblock. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go unblock everybody, bro. Saying be extra nice, MBG. One troll tweet and your channel would go haywire, LOL. I mean, that's the thing that's kind of holding me back, is it's like, I don't know. I just, YouTube and Twitter are so vastly different. They are. YouTube is so much better than Twitter. It's not even funny. It is like, and I mean, it's just, it's different, man. MBG's about to unblock everyone and tweet some very triggering tweets. Yeah, dude. I don't even have to try. That's the crazy part. Smurf, you're saying that's weird. My chat didn't go through. When you say your chat didn't go through, you're talking about regular chat, or did you try a super chat and it didn't go through? Duolingo, you're saying, Mommy said it's my turn to leave the basement. Damn, bro. What? I appreciate the super chat, man. Saying regular chat, no biggie. Just watch out for MVG tweeting Xbox has killed COD and ABK deal. Dude, it is... That's what I'm saying, man. Like, I could say so much. There's just so much to say. And I just can't, because I don't know. I don't want to, because there's no, like, why would I do it now? Why would I do it now? But I wanted to mention that because I thought it was really, it just kind of was random and out of nowhere. Came out of nowhere. GD, dude, thank you so much for the $20 super chat, man. It's very kind of you. You're saying, let's say Xbox bought another publisher after the ABK deal. Is that a real danger to Sony if they continue to just focus on making Game of the Year type titles while Xbox focuses on consolidating the casual masses? Well, I think that anytime a publisher gets purchased, whether it's by Microsoft or anybody else, but certainly by Microsoft, it is a danger to Sony, no matter what, because we have to understand, well, I know you guys understand, but sometimes I think it's easy to forget and not fully grasp. When a publisher is purchased, when they lose that independence, they lose freedom. They lose their freedom. And when they lose their freedom, they can no longer interact with any other platform holder unless they are, told that they are allowed to. And it's just always a danger to Sony because, I mean, it's like the whole Bethesda situation, right? One day, Bethesda was an independent publisher and all of their future games were guaranteed to release on PlayStation. And then the next day, they were gone for good. And all their future games, or at least that seems to be where it's headed. So there is that danger there, but the one thing I will say is this. If Microsoft is even able to buy another publisher after ABK, I don't think Sony's going to have to worry as much. And the reason I say that is because it is in Microsoft's best interest to continue to make games multi-plat going forward, because it's going to make it, everything they do now is either going to make it easier or harder for them to secure future acquisitions. And that's just important to understand. And that's not just from a regulatory standpoint, but that's also from a publisher standpoint as well. A publisher has to want to sell, and I think that by Microsoft, if they choose to continue to make their games multi-platform, same with Sony in this case, I think that's just automatically more appealing to publishers who are thinking about selling. Maybe not though. Maybe not, because at the end of the day, we have to understand that when they sell, they're mainly looking at the money that they're going to get for selling. But it is a danger, no matter which way we slice it. I just think that as consolidation continues, what you're describing here, saying Sony, if they just continue to focus on making these really high quality game of the year contenders, will they actually have to really worry about what Microsoft is doing? I wish I had an answer to that question, man. I will tell you that based off of the way Sony is talking to their investors, the way that they're talking about their business plans, I think Sony's plan is to just continue doing what they're doing, what they've been doing, and not really let what Microsoft's doing get in their way that much. Sony, I think, is what we've learned is just how powerless Sony really is in this scenario. And what I mean by that is we witnessed Sony, and they still are to a degree, involve themselves with this. And the Jim Ryan wanted to block the merger. Sony really wanted to do anything they could to interfere with this. But in reality, they're powerless. They have had minimal to zero impact on this entire thing. And they've just kind of, they created bad press for themselves. And it seems clear now that this deal's done, or it's going to be done sooner rather than later. At least that's my hope anyway. But it seems like it's going to be done. The point I'm trying to get at here is that Sony would be wise, in my opinion, to just focus on doing what you've always done and don't stray from that, because you cannot stop Microsoft if this is what they're going to do. I know to a lot of people that sounds like, so you're saying they should just like give up, or is it like defeatist mentality? No, it's just reality. The reality is Sony cannot keep up with Microsoft or other major, huge public companies that are worth trillions of dollars. They just can't do it. But why would they want to even focus their efforts on that in the first place? Because of what you just said. What has Sony been doing so well? Putting out great games. Putting out games that sell well. Putting out games that give them prestige, that give them notoriety, that give them goodwill, that make them relevant, that keep them relevant. This is what Sony has done. I've talked over and over again about, like, what is it that I like about Sony? You're saying what's with the doom and gloom against Sony? No, this is actually the opposite of doom and gloom, I think, because what I'm about to say is, like, I think about what I like about PlayStation, and it's just that. It's that they put out these great games, and I encounter people who have their own opinions. They say, well, Sony doesn't put out enough games, or Sony's games are overrated, or they're too similar, or so on and so forth. And, I just realized that, look, people obviously are going to feel how they feel. I don't agree with any of that. And I also don't need to explain anything to anybody. I mean, I guess I just sometimes feel like I should, just because I'm here streaming and talking about it. But the reality is, I know why I play PlayStation, and I know what I like about PlayStation. And what I wouldn't like, and I mean this, I would not like if Sony decided we have to redirect our focus and our efforts on buying entities, on buying things that were already established, and basically get into a consolidation war with a company that we simply can't keep up with. That is the last thing I would want to see Sony do. And That's not to say I don't want to see Sony continue to acquire strategically. I think they should. Like, here's a great example. People still say like, oh, Sony should definitely acquire Square Enix right now. Like they should. And look, I get it. If Sony were to make a play for a publisher, maybe that's the most likely one. Maybe that makes the most sense. But I'm thinking to myself, you know what Sony should be doing? And I'm pretty sure they are. They have a game called Helldivers 2. It's a multiplayer game. I'm sure most of you know about it. Releasing later this year as a PlayStation 5 exclusive that's also going to release on PC. This is an IP. Helldivers 2 is an IP that's owned by Sony, and they clearly want it to work with the studio again. The studio is called Arrowhead. Helldivers 2 looks way more AAA than the first Helldivers did. What Sony should be doing is monitoring this game, seeing what the feedback is, seeing how people respond to it. And if the response is very positive and it's clear that this team made a very high quality, fun video game, Sony should make a play for them, for Arrowhead, because it's like the Housemarque effect, right? Like, it's a studio that has worked with Sony in the past and they've gotten better over time and they've proven themselves, that like we can make really high quality video games. They've earned their place, so to speak, in the PlayStation Studios family. Something like that. I'm not saying that, Sony getting Arrowhead, if they were to acquire them, is going to be, that's Sony's response to the ABK acquisition. It's not, but that's the thing. It's not a response. It's their strategy. You know what I would love to see more than anything? I'd love to see Sony build a studio. I would love Sony. That, to me, that would be the biggest. I don't know. It'd be such a Giga Chad move, really. I mean, imagine Sony comes out and they announce, you know what? We're building a brand new AAA studio from the ground up. We're going to hire some of the most talented, or maybe they'll, take some of their some developers from their other studios right now that have proven, they can move up in the ladder. Yeah, that'd be a big flex, man. I would love to see Sony do that. I'm just not at all excited about the potential of a consolidation war, because no one's going to win that war. No one, not even the consumer. It is very important that certain video game publishers, and especially the bigger ones, it is important that they remain independent. The industry needs that. The industry would become so stale and so stagnant if every major independent video game publisher was owned by a platform holder. It would be bad. And that's not me throwing shade at Microsoft. That's just the way it would be. I'm not even saying it would be their fault. It's just that would be the natural progression of things. The beauty about these publishers and these studios underneath the publishers being independent is they really have to try. I'm not saying that if you're underneath somebody like Microsoft or Tencent or whatever, that suddenly you don't have to try. It's not that. It's just there's an added, well, let's just face it. Let's call it what it is. There's an added freedom to being independent that is completely stripped away when you are no longer independent and you're owned by somebody else. And I just don't see how the industry could benefit by every major player in the game industry having that freedom stripped. I don't think that would ultimately be a good thing. And so I guess what I'm trying to say here, is I know I'm being long-winded with this. GD, I hope that Sony doesn't feel as though if Microsoft continues to buy certain publishers, it's I don't want to say I hope they don't feel like it's a danger to them, because that's how they're going to feel. Of course, it is a threat to them. But I guess my hope is that Sony just continues down the path that they are on, and that's where their focus remains, because I genuinely do believe that if the industry is going to consolidate this way, and by that I mean EA is going to get picked up eventually, Take-Two, Ubisoft, Bandai Namco, and everybody else in between. If that's really how this is going to play out in the long run, where everybody's going to go somewhere, I think the thing that's going to ultimately keep PlayStation relevant and hopefully profitable during this entire time, because I don't want to see them go under, is just that. It's our studios, our games, our intellectual properties, and hopefully all the other stuff we can offer on top of that. Because if Sony starts to focus on other people's intellectual properties, other companies' intellectual properties, I don't know. I don't know, man. This is the second time this has happened today, and I have no idea why. Liddell Gary, it looks like you posted a milestone chat, but nothing is coming up. There's no text. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if it's glitched out today. Can anybody else see what he said? Did he? I don't know if it's just glitched out on my end. I really don't know, man. I wish I knew. You're saying that happened to me as well, and I was refunded. Well, the thing about a milestone chat is, I don't know. Yeah, you might have to try typing it in the chat. I'm sorry, man. I can't read whatever you typed because there's no comment showing. GD again, thank you for the $10, man. I appreciate the super chats, bud. You're saying Xbox has a lot of support for bringing ABK to anywhere Game Pass exists. Do you think Sony would receive a lot of negative publicity if they then buy a semi-large publisher and not bring it day one to PC too? That's a great question, actually. That is a great question, GD, and I'm glad you mentioned this, because this is something that I feel like is being overlooked, understandably so. There's so much conversation right now about, will Sony or will they not buy a publisher of their own? But not many people are asking the question, how would people respond to Sony announcing? Like, just a hypothetical scenario. We are gonna acquire Square Enix. And I think something I want to add to your question, you're saying, how would people feel if Sony decided not to bring it day one to PC? Another question you have to ask is, how would people feel if Sony bought a semi-large publisher and announced their games are going exclusive and they're not launching day and date into PlayStation Plus? Because this is truly this is how Microsoft has twisted Sony's arm and basically put Sony in a pretzel. And I know that sounds bad. It's only bad depending on how Sony plans to react to it, because we have to understand that something that will not go down well with people, you're talking about publicity, right? Something that will be a guarantee is if Sony purchases a semi-large publisher, which again, I don't think they will, but if they were to do that, if they decide we're not launching these games day and date onto PlayStation Plus, which wouldn't be surprising because that's not Sony's strategy, people are literally going to say, I hate you, Sony, and I wish Microsoft acquired them instead. I mean, that is truly the way in which Microsoft has twisted Sony's arm with Game Pass, where We know Sony would not acquire a publisher and then put their games into PlayStation Plus. We know that Microsoft, anytime they acquire anybody, will put their games into Game Pass day and date. And you can kind of see, like, right now, right? What people are so convinced, and I'm not here to make an argument for or against it. You guys can make your own decision. I'm not talking about it anymore because I'm just tired of it. But you can see right now that so many people are truly convinced, and I mean truly convinced, that Microsoft owning Activision Blizzard is good for this industry and good for everyone, including the consumer. I'm not saying that's true or false, but that's what most people believe right now. So with that in mind, what happens when somebody like Sony makes a big purchase of their own and they say, yeah, we're not, like, we're still going to be selling these games at full price, and some of them are going to be exclusive, and some of them aren't going to be going to PC. Sony's only going to be looked at as the bad guy. And if anything, like, it would backfire on them from a publicity standpoint. Sony bought, and that is a wild reality, isn't it? Like, basically what I'm explaining is a reality in which Microsoft can go buy whoever they want and people will cheer them on. If Sony goes and buys anybody, there's a good chance people are going to get upset with them. The only reason people weren't upset with Sony buying Bungie is because they made it clear that all of their games are staying multi-platform. You're saying I'm fear-mongering and overthinking things? No, I don't think I am. You're saying he said release on PC, not PlayStation Plus. I know. I just feel like that has to play a role. I feel like that has to play a role in this. You know, it's really interesting, man. I saw this Twitter thread the other day. It was like last week or something. It was from this guy. I know he's pretty well known. I know he's really well known in the Soulsborne, specifically the Bloodborne community. I'm forgetting his name. He's pretty well known. I'm sure somebody in the chat would be able to tell me his name. He's on Twitter. He does like a lot of modding and stuff on Bloodborne. Not Fatty Video, no. No, it's not him. Lance McDonald. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, Lance McDonald. He put out a tweet, and I'm paraphrasing it. I don't have it in front of me, but the tweet kind of blew up a little bit, and it was in regards to like industry consolidation, and he was listing. You know what? Maybe I should just read it to you because I don't know if I'm going to do it justice by trying to paraphrase it. Sorry, give me 1 second to bring it up. Where's this tweet of his? Okay, so he put out this tweet on July 11th, and I'm just going to read it word for word. He says, "It's bad that Sony bought Bluepoint Games. It's bad that Microsoft bought Bethesda. It's bad that Sony bought Nixxes. It's bad that Microsoft bought Activision. It's bad that Sony bought Housemarque. It's bad that Microsoft bought Ninja Theory." That was his original tweet. And, you know, he definitely got a little bit of, well, not a little bit. He got a lot of responses. And this one person responded to him by saying, "Not the same thing, even a little bit." And Lance McDonald replies by saying, "Different levels of bad are all bad." Another person says, "How do you feel about it when it's a studio that isn't in a great place financially, like Obsidian and Double Fine had been relying on Kickstarters to fund their games before the buyouts?" Lance replies by saying, "It's bad that the companies buying these studios are platform holders, leading to exclusivity." Somebody else says, "Consolidation isn't great, but isn't most of the reason this happens because they want to be bought? It's tough being independent, from what I understand." Lance McDonald says, "Who gives a fuck? It's bad that they get bought out by a huge platform holder. Losing both Bluepoint and Nixxes was a huge blow to the video game landscape." Now, I just want to say I find what he's saying interesting because I am in agreement. Like he basically what Lance is saying, consolidation and platform holders buying publishers or studios is bad. That's what he's saying. I don't know that I fully agree with him, but I do understand where he's coming from. Here's what's fascinating about his tweets though. Lance he says it's funny to me. He says the industry losing Bluepoint and Nixxes to Sony is like a huge blow to the entire industry. I mean, you can clearly see he has his preferences. You know what I mean? You can clearly see that this guy is not as big of a fan for Activision, for Bethesda, because it's like, I do agree. Like, I am a huge fan of Bluepoint. I don't know that I could say the same about Nixxes, but I agree. Like, I do agree with what he's saying in that Bluepoint no longer being a multi-platform developer, if I were not on PlayStation, I would feel like, damn, that's a huge loss because Bluepoint's awesome. But I guess ultimately, if you really read between the lines, if you really try to understand what he's trying to convey in this tweet, he's just simply trying to say that both Sony and Microsoft are the bad guys because they're both out here buying people. I don't fully agree with that. I think it is a bit disingenuous to stack up a purchase of Bluepoint and Nixxes against the purchase of Bethesda and Activision and try to make it seem like they're even remotely on the same level. But if you're talking about it from a consumer standpoint, where you're saying from a consumer perspective, it may as well be on the same level because all these guys were once independent. I guess I'm just pointing this out because it's like, you can already see how people are painting Sony as a villain. And I'm not here to say that Sony isn't a villain. I do agree that different levels of bad, it's all bad. But I think it's kind of insane for people to be so quick to just immediately, let's just view it all in black and white. Because if I were to give an analogy here, Sony buying Bluepoint's bad. Microsoft buying Bethesda's bad. Sony buying Nixxes is bad. Microsoft buying Activision's bad. You're right. I guess that is all bad, right? Because they were all independent. But I just want to point out that this is like the equivalent of saying somebody who shoplifted and is deemed a criminal for shoplifting is on the same level as a serial killer who's committed multiple murders and got caught. That just to be clear, that is what is being conveyed here. They're both bad, so who gives a fuck? It's all bad. That's called black and white thinking, and it's extremely damaging. I understand that people want to be righteous about, they want to be right. They want to feel like they're on the right side. And sometimes by just saying it's all bad, so therefore I'm good and I'm right, that doesn't take away, just because you want to remove all of the nuance in a situation doesn't mean the nuance is actually gone. Doesn't mean that there isn't actually a lot more to it. And yeah, that it is gaslighting. And I just think it's the reason why I'm bringing all of this up, just to circle back around, because I did have a point here with GD's super chat, which I think was a great question. He's basically asking, do you think Sony would get negative publicity if they bought a semi-big publisher and maybe didn't release their games on PC? Certainly, or day one on PC, and certainly not on PS Plus. I pointed this tweet out because I just wanted to make it known that Sony hasn't gotten anywhere close to buying a publisher. The closest thing they've gotten to is buying somebody like Bungie, but even then, it's still nowhere near the same level. And they're already getting shit while their competition is buying one of the biggest publishers on the planet after buying one of the biggest publishers. This is where we are. So when I tell you I really think it would be in Sony's best interest to just not get involved with this consolidation war, maybe I'm speaking a little bit selfishly because I don't want to deal with that as a PlayStation content creator. It just sounds like a nightmare. But I also do think that, I don't know. But sometimes we have to ask ourselves, how much does this stuff really matter in the grand scheme of things? Did Lance McDonald's tweet suddenly make it so that, well, people are going to buy less PS5s now? People are very disappointed in Sony now. No, that's not the case. And it's just, it's just ironic, really. Anthony Capozzo, thank you for the $10 super chat, man. You're saying, MBG, streaming is currently devastating Hollywood with the writer/actor strikes due to lack of monetization. Is this headed, I think you're saying, is this the direction we're headed in with gaming? And is it your Game Pass foresight coming to fruition? That's a really good question, man. I think it is important to pay attention what's happening right now in Hollywood with the writer/actor strike because it's easy to ignore if you're not interested in movies or anything like that. And I'll admit, even I've been ignoring it mostly, but I've been looking into it a little bit more. And you're saying it's due to the only thing I want to point out here is you're saying streaming is currently devastating Hollywood and that the writer/actor strike is due to a lack of monetization. I want to bring something up here because I think this might be relevant. Give me 1 second. So check this out. The Hollywood Reporter. In a newsmaking interview with CNBC on Thursday morning, Walt Disney CEO Bob Iger said that the WGA strike and the imminent SAG-AFTRA strike, I don't know what that stands for, but I guess they're just basically the writer and actor strike, are very disturbing and will have very, very damaging effect on the whole business. This is the worst time in the world to add to that disruption, Iger said, adding that he respects the right and their desire to be compensated fairly, but also that the unions have to be realistic about the business environment and what this business can deliver, and that the strikes will cause huge collateral damage. We managed as an industry to negotiate a very good deal with the Directors Guild that reflects the value that the directors contribute to this great business, Iger said. We wanted to do the same thing with the writers, and we'd like to do the same thing with the actors. There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic, and they are adding to a set of challenges that this business is already facing. That is quite frankly very disruptive. But Iger also addresses the future of Disney by suggesting that the ABC broadcast network may not be core and that the company, and, talks a little bit more. But so check this out. There's a reason why I'm pointing this out, okay? Basically, what the CEO of Disney is saying is that the shit is hitting the fan right now on a business level in Hollywood. And I don't know that I feel confident in saying that that is because of streaming services. I do notice that a lot of these big directors and movies with big production budgets and the actors in them seem to very aggressively be promoting, like, go to the movie theater, go to the movie theater. The movie theater's still alive and well. When I see all this happening, it does seem to indicate that there is something not quite right. But here's the craziest thing in this whole matter that needs to be addressed. And we'll see how this maybe ties into what you're asking me about Game Pass and gaming and subscription services, and if we're going to see something similar happen in our industry. I saw a tweet earlier today, and see, this is where Twitter does prove to be useful from time to time, where somebody pointed out that the average salary for a writer in Hollywood is, I think, about 60. It was like $67,000 or $68,000. All right. Bob Iger apparently makes, I think, about $74,000 a day. And I think he's making a salary. I'm trying to see what his exact salary is. Bob Iger's salary. Trying to see in 2023. Bob Iger's total pay was $15 million, $25.5 million. So, $24 million. I think he's set to make even more than that. Listen, I respect how difficult it is to be a CEO of such a large company. I firmly believe that CEOs and people who are in charge and making the tough decisions where the buck stops with them, I firmly believe they should be compensated very, very handsomely. I just think it's absolutely insane for a man who's making that much money for being the CEO of Disney is going to have the audacity to turn around and say that the writers who have an average salary of $68,000 a year, who are effectively the backbone of the industry, that they're being unrealistic. Saying Bobby Kotick makes $150 million a year. Jesus, man. I just don't know that I could bring myself to ever say such a thing. If I was a CEO and I was being paid over $24 million a year, probably more than that. That was actually, I think, his salary last year. I don't think I could turn and say, you guys are being unrealistic asking for more than what you're getting at $68,000 on average a year. I'd feel like a moron. It's like, I'm not surprised that somebody who makes that kind of money makes that kind of statement. I don't necessarily know that what I just said, I know that's not an answer to your question, Anthony. And to get back to your question, one of the problems the gaming industry is already facing is it is frankly the same problem that almost every industry begins to face when the growth just keeps going and going and going. It's just that it's never enough. And you don't really know who to blame. Do we blame ourselves? Is it our fault? Is it people like us who say, I do expect bigger and better, more exciting games with bigger improvements? I expect more innovation. If that is our expectation, well, that's going to require growth. And what does growth require? Growth requires more money, requires more talent, requires more people. And it just ultimately requires more money, more production. And then we look at the shareholders, and the shareholders, they want more too. Well, we want to see constant growth. If we're not growing, we're shrinking and we're losing money. And we can never have that happen. We can never just be stable. It has to always be on an incline. And in the gaming industry, specifically in the AAA space, we are seeing a problem where games are ballooning in budget. Publishers like Sony, and I'd say most game publishers, they are aware that they have to continue to compensate their development team fairly, right? Like when we talked about the budget of a game like The Last of Us Part 2 being $220 million, and then also Horizon Forbidden West being $212 million, when people did the math based off of how many employees worked on the game, how many developers worked on the game, it was clear that all of that money went into paying your employees, paying the developers, and paying them what would be considered a fair amount, an amount to make a good living, a very nice living, right? Nothing crazy, but that's the thing is, as far as I'm aware, you don't really see game developers. I don't know. I haven't really seen game developers complaining about money in the same way that we're seeing writers in Hollywood. Like, could this become a thing? I mean, let me tell you, if game budgets continue to rise at the rate they are, if game development teams continue to grow at the rate that they are in the AAA space, and the need for a company like Sony, like Microsoft, like any other, to continue to be, on an upward trend and not flatline and certainly not go down in terms of, the shareholders and stock and all that, the stock market, there's only one solution, and that is we got to make more money. We got to pay the CEOs millions of dollars to be in that position. We got to pay the developers hundreds of millions of dollars doled out across hundreds of, we have teams of 300, 400 people. These games can't shrink because the market seems to indicate that they don't want the games to shrink. They want them to grow. It's tough, man. I'm not a businessman, right? I didn't go to business school, but I feel like I don't need to do that to know that there's a very, very delicate balance with all of this. And, you bring up Game Pass. The reality of Game Pass, from what I can tell, is it requires a lot of brute force. It still does. It is wild to think that there are people saying Game Pass is profitable after Microsoft just spent $68 billion on Activision Blizzard. Yes, it is an investment, but that's $68 billion they have to earn back. And believe me when I tell you, Game Pass is not going to be making Microsoft anywhere near $68 billion anytime remotely soon. But that's where the investment side of it comes. But that's why I'm saying this is a matter of brute force. This is not a balancing act. This is far from a balancing act. Microsoft is looking to make investments. What people don't seem to understand is that if these investments don't pay off, especially in a timely manner, I mean, I don't know what Microsoft's timetables are, but eventually Microsoft is going to be expecting these investments to pay off. And if they do not pay off, and if they don't pay off in the way that they thought they would, heads will roll. People will be gone. Things will shrink. That's how this works, man. The bigger the investment, the bigger the risk that it's not going to pay off. I just want to remind people that it's not so much that a streaming service like Game Pass is going to, or subscription service, I should say, is going to kill gaming or end gaming. It's not going to be that simple. And it's, these things don't happen that way. It's not like just one day, like a flip of a switch, it's just over. At least very, very, very rarely does that ever happen. But right now we are, the gaming industry is in a transitionary period. It is in a state, it is in an unstable state, a volatile state. And the actual consolidation that we are witnessing, not only through smaller studios, but bigger publishers as well, indicates as much. Now, I know that sounds bad, like, is it? I'm not, again, an unstable state doesn't mean it's going to explode or implode. It just means it's unstable. And it might stabilize. And I think that's what I want to see. And I think that's what anybody who has any type of optimism, I think that's what we want to see. We want to see stability. And, I don't mind Game Pass as long as it works, Just like I don't mind buying games at full price as long as it works. Both ways, that is. The thing that's concerning to me is when you have Sony coming out making it clear that we're not putting our games day and date into PS Plus because we can't. And then you have Microsoft coming out saying that's what we're doing. And we love our customers. We love the consumer. We're doing this for you. I am not, and here's how I'm going to connect the dots here. I am not in Bob Iger's position as the CEO of Disney. He might be making complete sense. I do not know. But I'm also not in Jim Ryan's shoes. I'm not in Phil Spencer's shoes. It just comes down to, what do you believe? What sounds like it makes sense to you? When it comes to the whole situation with Hollywood right now and the writers and the actors, and I listen to, this is what the CEO of Disney has to say about it, and he says these guys are being unrealistic with what they're asking. But then I look at how much money he's getting paid yearly. It's difficult for me as somebody who is not a CEO and not involved with big business and knows very little about most of what's going on in Hollywood. It is very difficult for me, based off of what I'm hearing, to agree with him and say, you're right, man. They're fucking crazy for asking for more money. To me, it just seems like you're greedy. And yeah, that's it. When I look at Sony, and Sony says, well, we have to charge $70 for our games. We have to stick with our traditional business model. Because if we try to do anything else, it's not going to be sustainable. On the surface, it seems like, well, that sounds like a load of bullshit. Like, it just sounds like, look at what people have said time and time again. Sony's just greedy. Jim Ryan's greedy. But then information leaks out that we weren't supposed to know. And we find out, so maybe there was some truth to that. When you find out that, so The Last of Us Part 2 cost $220 million, and that $220 million didn't even count the marketing. Of course, The Last of Us Part 2 made a profit. But this notion that they're making a disgusting profit, And it's just like they're just sitting on a mountain of money, and that money isn't being reinvested or doled out in a strategic way. It becomes clear that mostly it is. And I'm not sitting here saying that Sony is any different. They're not. Sony makes it clear that they want to run a profitable business. They're not here to give us the best deal. They're here to deliver a product fairly, or as fairly as they can, and give the gamer, the customer, what it is that they seemingly want. And I understand that there's a lot of loud people on the internet who will say to you, and they will tell you over and over again, that this isn't what people want. But the data and the numbers, they don't lie. And it proves that actually a lot of people want that. Like a lot. And it's not slowing down. You know, it's keeping its momentum. So you can begin, what I'm trying to point out is you can see the cycle. You can see how the parts are working together and moving together to reveal to you like why Sony is not changing what they're doing, why they're not deciding to follow Microsoft, why it just works, because you see it right there, man. You see it from the consumer perspective. You see it somewhat. I mean, with this whole FTC trial and all of that, all of those juicy details that we weren't supposed to learn about, you can now get a much clearer picture. On the Microsoft side of things, it is a lot different. On the Microsoft side of things, they're playing the long game. They are okay not necessarily being super profitable, or maybe even profitable at all, for a long time, because this isn't about short-term profit. This isn't even about mid-term profit. This is about long-term mega profit. And if you want long-term mega profit, that requires some mega investment on a large scale. And Microsoft, I will say, they have constructed this investment in such a way, and they've constructed their business model in such a way that, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to negatively impact PlayStation, but it definitely puts PlayStation in a corner, so to speak. That's not to say that that's a bad thing. Sony might be just fine in that corner. But yeah, I know I'm going a little bit, maybe I'm being a little bit shaky with this whole thing. You'll have to forgive me. I think my caffeine's wearing out, but I'm just saying, I guess what I'm trying to say is that if Game Pass is going to ravage the video game industry, if gaming subscription services are going to cause another great collapse in the gaming industry, we don't know that for sure. And I guess the great hope, like I said, is that hopefully we don't see something similar happen in the gaming industry as what's happening in the movie industry right now and in Hollywood, because that would be a true nightmare. The idea of video game production basically just stopping, you know. Saying MBG, Anthony, I'll get to your super chat in 1 second, man. B. Flesher, you're saying MBG, the Game Pass model, isn't impossible. Quick math. 30 million people paying an average of $10 a month, $3.6 billion a year. That's 18 The Last of Us 2s with only 30 million users. Sony could survive. Easy. You know, if that's true, the reason why I'm not so sure about that, like I'm not quick to just say totally, is because if that was true, why haven't they already done it? I've always believed that if Sony wanted to chase Game Pass, putting the money aside, if Sony wanted to chase Game Pass, I think they could. And I think that they could overtake Game Pass legitimately. With some of their games are so big, they have such heavy hitting games. I think they could. Somebody says you are forgetting that Game Pass money goes to Microsoft, the company, not the developers. What about the rising price or the cost to make games? And that's true. Matt York also points out that it's not all profit. I mean, let's take Halo Infinite, for example. The rumor was that Microsoft spent like over $500 million. I don't even think that's counting marketing for Halo Infinite. And they launched that game day and date in the Game Pass. You know how they thought that they were gonna make their money back with Halo? Through microtransactions, because it was a live service. And they basically gave up full game sales of their biggest franchise in the hopes that they could recoup it through people subscribing to Game Pass, which I don't know how many people subscribe to Game Pass for Halo for. I'll be honest, it seems like it didn't move the needle that much. B, microtransactions for a live service that ultimately ended up flopping. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It's so tough to talk about this sometimes because we do not have the answers. And it is too tempting to talk in a way that conveys we do have the answers. I've been guilty of this. Many others are still guilty of this. And what the subscription model will end up doing to the gaming industry it is a question mark. It is a question mark. All I will say, something I will say with a bit of confidence, is simply this. The subscription service model is a question mark in this industry still. The traditional model is not. That is something I can say with confidence. And I think that it is simply why I am inclined to, when Sony says we're going to stick with the traditional model, because if we try to do something else, things might collapse. As somebody who is happy and satisfied with the way PlayStation has been handling things, mostly, say probably like not over 90% of what they do, I'm pretty satisfied with. It makes me say, okay, the same reason that I'm not saying Sony should go chase publishers to compete with Microsoft in chasing publishers, I feel the exact same way with their business model. In the same way that your business model is working, your business is profitable, and your developers are happy, the customers are mostly happy, you're producing great games, there's no need for anything to really change dramatically right now. Everyone, seemingly at this moment in time, they have lost sight of a very important fact. And that fact is that as far as I could tell, I don't want to say person, because Microsoft is not a person, but Microsoft is the one that needed this to change. Not Sony, not Nintendo, not even the customer. It was Microsoft. Now, I'm not saying that automatically makes it bad, because as you can see, people are happy about that. A lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people are happy that, oh, look at that. Microsoft is changing this model. I don't know what it will do to the industry in the long run. I don't know what it means. But what I do know is they're changing it, and I'm saving money. That's what's happening right now. And that is by Microsoft's will. Microsoft said, we need this to change. So we're going to do it. We're going to change it. It's interesting. It is, at the end of the day, no matter what, putting all the fanboy stuff, console war stuff aside, it's very interesting because there is a transition happening. And that transition is being brute forced by a company that has the means to brute force it. But Even Microsoft doesn't know where this road leads, truly. They have an idea, of course. They have a map, but we don't know because the road has not been paved yet. Microsoft is trailblazing it, and we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. You're saying they have the means, but not the capability to bring it to the top. We'll see about that. It depends on how much faith you have in Microsoft. Anthony, I'm sorry to keep you waiting, man. I really appreciate your super chats, dude. You're saying this is the first alarms being sounded. You, Colin, even Bobby Kotick, the union lead said streaming. Sorry, the union lead said streaming is the cause. It's the undercutting of competition. Really? Did they say? Did they actually say that? I don't know who the union lead is, but they're citing that streaming is the cause. You know, it's interesting. I have a friend. He pays a little bit of attention to the gaming industry, but he's mostly out of the loop. He's a smart dude. He's a really smart guy, and occasionally we talk about what's going on in the gaming industry, and I'm always interested to hear what he has to say because I'm getting input from somebody who's not following it very closely. Like they're getting the Microsoft's spending $68 billion for Activision, and they're going to put it in. They have the Game Pass business model, and he always says something, and he's not a fanboy or anything like that. Just to be clear, there's no bias. And the thing he always says to me is he's like, dude, the day is going to come when developers revolt against Microsoft because of Game Pass. Like developers are going to end up hating Game Pass because they're going to realize in the long run that Game Pass is a means for them to make less money and get paid less. And I always just thought that him saying that was just fascinating for the fact that interesting. Like this is an assessment from somebody who's a smart dude, has some general understanding of business, but he just has no bias, and it's just interesting to me that he has that just automatic, that's where he sees this road leading to. And he even has said to me in the past, laughing a little bit, he's like, don't worry about Game Pass, man, because trust me, Sony's well aware that in the long run, developers are going to turn on Game Pass and they're going to start demanding more money for their work. And I just find it so interesting right now because I guess that's why what he said is popping into my head, because Anthony is bringing up here that hey man, we're seeing what's happening in Hollywood. They're citing that streaming and these streaming services are the reason. And Hollywood's been going through some weird, they've seemingly been going through this transition much faster, I guess, than the gaming industry. And then Anthony, you followed up by saying, last thought, Sony company already affected. Yeah, I mean, it is, you do, look, I just think it's very telling that we are witnessing this kind of divide. And we have, again, business executives like Jim Ryan. Jim Ryan says we have a virtue. I think he phrased it as a virtuous cycle. And what that means, what he's basically saying is this virtuous cycle is kind of what I described earlier, where we have a customer base and the customers are seemingly happy with what they're getting. And the reason why they're happy is because they keep coming back and they keep spending their money. And our games keep selling better or very well. People keep buying PlayStation 5s, and there's still people subscribing to PS Plus. And our developers seem to be very happy. We pay our developers, I guess what would be considered the industry standard, or at least enough to keep them happy. That's the thing that I think we also have to pay attention to here is Sony is going out of their way to keep their developers very happy, obviously, because, they have to. Sony's not stupid. They know that these developers are being asked to do something very difficult in this industry, and that is you need to create some of the biggest and best games. And anybody that you're asking to do such a thing, naturally, they're going to be saying, well, we expect to get paid pretty good for doing that, because that's not an easy feat, right? Microsoft, it's interesting. I feel like Microsoft is offering something different. I feel like Microsoft is offering with Game Pass kind of, I don't want to say the opposite, because I'm not saying that Microsoft isn't paying their developers good, but I think it's more like, we don't really expect you to make the biggest and best games in the industry. We essentially expect you to make something that's good enough to get people to subscribe to Game Pass, with basically $10. It is kind of understandable. It is kind of understandable how some people might look at that as, well, I don't know, man. If developers who were flocking to Microsoft for Game Pass are not expected to make games that have to sell at $70, how does that impact their, I don't know, like how much they're expected to be paid? Like how much do they expect to be paid the same amount, say, as a developer who's working at Naughty Dog? I don't know. I mean, maybe, I don't know. These things are not, I'll be honest, like these are things that I'm not paying that much attention to, simply because I'm not a developer, like I'm not involved over at Naughty Dog. I'm not involved over at a Microsoft studio. I don't know, but it is just fascinating to kind of watch as these things slowly unfold. And again, man, my hope with all of this is it just works out well in all regards. I feel like that's too ideal. I feel like that's an idealist mindset. Like, people say I fearmonger a lot and whatnot, but truthfully, I hope we could just see a future when it's all said and done, when the dust settles, regardless of how much consolidation happens, regardless of what Microsoft does, what Sony does. I'm happy with PlayStation, and I want to continue to see PlayStation do what they do. I don't want to see them change too dramatically, and I certainly don't want to see them chase somebody else, because I don't feel like Sony should be chasing anybody else. I hope things continue in the direction that they are with Sony. I hope that Sony's pursuit of live service does not bite them in the ass too much. I hope it works out. And I hope we see a good balance with PlayStation, where it's like we still get those killer single player games. They got some nice live service multiplayer offerings if that's what you want. They keep growing PlayStation Plus. They keep putting out the PlayStation hardware. And they keep maybe acquiring some studios here and there that make sense for them and for the PlayStation Studios family. That sounds perfect to me. I just get worried with PlayStation but is that going to be enough? Or, is that going to keep their shareholders happy? Because that's really what it comes down to. You think I'm fear-mongering? Let me ask you, how do you think Sony's shareholders feel right now watching Microsoft acquire Activision Blizzard after acquiring Bethesda? Because that's the only question that matters. How do they feel? Because that's what Sony cares about. I don't know. I mean, they have access to, I'm assuming they have access to more stuff than I do. So hopefully they're feeling good. Because right now it seems like PlayStation is still doing great. When it comes to Microsoft, I don't know, man. The truth is, I know people think that I want to see Microsoft crumble and I want to see Xbox die. It's nothing like that. That's like way too dramatic. I mean, if we're talking in like, in a really exaggerated fashion, sure, whatever. But I just hope that the fears that I've had, because Anthony, I mean, with your super chats, that's basically what you're alluding to. You're mentioning, Bobby Kotick said it himself. I mean, Colin Moriarty talks about it. We've heard Jim Ryan talk about it. We hear other people talk about it as well, about how I don't know that we should just immediately jump on the Game Pass wagon. We should probably be a little bit, we should be a little bit skeptical at the very least. And at worst, cynical, which I have been many times. I guess the hope is that whatever fears I have about what Game Pass and what Microsoft could potentially do in a negative way to this industry in the long run, I hope are untrue. Look, people think that this is just like a kind of a console war thing or a platform wars thing, where it's like, well, you just can't ever see Xbox do good. It's not so much that as it's just right now, the way, like, if I were to go on Twitter anywhere right now, like, in the eyes of most people that are on the internet, that are in these circles, Microsoft won already. Like, nothing has actually happened yet, but Microsoft won. They had a good showcase. They showed off Starfield that's coming. They showed off other games that are coming at some point, I guess in the next year or two. And they're on their way. They're like very close to acquiring Activision Blizzard and putting those games in the Game Pass. So in the eyes of most people, Microsoft already got their W. And you see, that's the thing, is that doesn't bother me. Like, that's fine. I think it's a little too soon. Like, I think we got to just let these things actually happen. But that's not the concern. Like, it's just always bothered me that people think that my concern is I don't want to see Xbox do well. And I saw somebody left a comment. I'll just bring this up, I guess, because it's relevant to the whole Game Pass conversation. Somebody left a comment where they were like, didn't MBG, when he used to be an Xbox guy, say that he just wanted Microsoft to, make more games and bring out more games, and now they're doing that and he still has a problem? And it's like, look, I lose if I try to fight against that because no one cares. Like, at that point, it's, look, man, I'm pretty sure even the person writing that comment, knows what I meant and that this is not what I meant. I'm pretty sure everybody actually understands that. But the thing is, it's not about understanding. It's not about taking a second to be skeptical. It's not. It's about pick your side because one side has won and the other has lost. Which side are you on? And when considering that's where we are, you're saying you are entitled to change your mind too, bro. Well, of course. I mean, at the end of the day, none of this actually really affects me. That's the greatest irony of it all. I mean, maybe if it has a huge impact on PlayStation, which it might affect me, but right now it doesn't seem like it's going to. The thing that I've basically decided on, because I feel like it's the best decision to make right now, is if this is the mentality across the internet and in most circles, where the mentality is like, this is the way it is, man, and it's over. And like, this is, like I said, one side is right, one side is wrong, one side gets a W, one side gets an L. My best bet is to try my best to just remove myself from it then. Because people are going to realize, not now, certainly not now, but eventually, things are going to, things are not done yet. Things are not set in stone yet. In fact, nothing in this industry is set in stone, realistically. Things are going to change, man. Not saying they're for the worse. I know that when I say that, people assume like, oh, you think they're going to change for the worse? I'm not saying that. Things will happen. Things are going to occur. And what I do know for a fact, and this goes for both PlayStation and Xbox, there will be surprises. There will be shockers. There will be things that are going to make people suddenly be like, what? Wait, hold on. And that is going to happen. Don't know when exactly. Don't know who it's going to have. It could be both, but we are on that path. And so I basically just made the decision that rather than rather than continue to speak as if I know the answer and I have the answer, I'm just going to be careful about the way I speak. And that's the big thing that I want to try to get across to people is I have my opinions, I have my thoughts, I will continue to give my thoughts, but I do not have the answers. And anybody who thinks they have the answer, I would highly suggest not listening to them because I don't know why they would think they have the answer, why they think they know the future, but no one does. No one does. Oh, sorry, Zombie Dragon. I totally missed your chat here. So, all right, seems like it's not glitched out because this is a milestone chat. And I can read it just fine. You're saying for indie games, Game Pass is good. It gets a bunch of people in that would not have tried the game, AAA games, it's a bad idea. You're probably not far off the mark with that one, man. You know, because that is a big problem with indie games is exposure, because the indie market is so saturated. I mean, the gaming market in general is so overly saturated, but certainly indies, it's like nearly impossible to to get your game noticed without some luck or some serious marketing money behind it. And so I do agree that not just Game Pass, but PlayStation Plus, like I said, subscription services, as far as I can tell, do serve a really good purpose and function in the gaming industry. But I am in agreement with you, Zombie Dragon. I just don't know that dropping AAA games into them is the answer. I just don't know how that could be the answer. I don't know. Maybe what that person said earlier, like if you get enough subscribers, eventually you can just continue to produce you can put, assuming that the cost of these games don't get much higher, but they probably will. You could just continue to pump them out and you get that recurrent revenue. The reality is Sony is going to be able to do that, hopefully, with their live service games anyway. That's kind of the great irony in this entire conversation is, as I've said previously, we're going to see some major shifts and changes that are going to shock people in the coming years. We don't know exactly what they are or how they're going to take place or when they're going to take place, but that is going to happen. But the irony is that even though we have these two companies that seem so at odds with one another, they are both essentially chasing the same thing, just in a very different way, where they need safety nets. They need monetary safety nets for them, for the developers, for their business. And I guess if you whittle it down to that, I guess the conversation just kind of turns into which one's if they're both aggressively pursuing these safety nets, which one is more likely to actually work and be reliable? It's hard to say, man. It's hard to say, but interesting conversation nonetheless. Wasn't fully planning on going in this direction with this stream, but I guess it's tough not to just kind of drift off into this direction because there's really not a whole lot going on right now, man. There's like very minimal gaming news and everything's kind of at a standstill. It's the dog days of summer. So you're saying Microsoft already has major safety nets for live service Minecraft. That is true. Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I didn't consider that. That's interesting. So maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe Microsoft isn't looking for a safety net. Maybe looking for something else. You're saying Microsoft closes tonight? You think so? That would be interesting. That'd be very interesting if that were to happen. Is there like a rumor of that happening? Because I noticed like they're just stuff keeps popping up. But look, I'll be honest with you, man. I said all, at least when it comes to the specifics of this topic, I did say everything I had to say, and it's obvious in my opinion, what's about to happen. So, but there is, believe it or not, this is not going to be a 4-hour show today. I do have one more topic that I would like to discuss before I head out and before we end this. And that is, it's definitely different than what we've been discussing. The Last of Us Part 2 and the fact that a remaster is apparently coming. It was leaked by somebody involved with it. So this is being reported by WCCF Tech, and they say Naughty Dog's The Last of Us Part 2 might soon receive new additions. The surprising news came from a credible source award-winning Argentinian composer Gustavo Santaolalla, who wrote the music for the 2 games in the franchise and for the HBO TV adaptation. In the new interview, he speaks about his cameo in The Last of Us Part 2, and he says, quote, "In the new editions, you can make me play certain themes, and well, I can't tell you anything else," end quote. In the original game, Santalala appeared in front of the Copper Peak Inn in the safe haven of Jackson, Wyoming. However, players cannot interact with his in-game character. He is playing a song, so it's kind of like a little cameo. This could mean that the new version of the game for new platforms, such as the PS5 and PC, is being prepared. The game already got a 60 FPS mode update on PS5 in May of 2021, but Naughty Dog promised back then that more PS5 improvements would be coming. And so this is pretty, I don't want to say surprising, but it's just kind of interesting the way it leaked out, right? It's interesting that we just have, the composer of the game just casually talking about it. You know what I did see? Some people were saying that maybe he's not actually talking about a remastered version or a director's cut version of The Last of Us Part 2. Maybe he's talking about the actual multiplayer game, because in the multiplayer game, like, he's gonna make another, I don't know, appearance. Here's what's weird to me about this. He is making it so he says in the new version of the game, like, he doesn't specifically say The Last of Us Remastered or anything. He says in the new editions, you can make me play certain themes. So I don't know. I really almost do wonder if he's referencing The Last of Us multiplayer, and that's the new edition he's talking about, because he is in The Last of Us Part 2 as a little cameo, but you can't interact with him. He's just playing, I think he's like, playing the banjo, and you can just kind of like, oh, look, there he is. And he also talks about how you can choose songs to play. I don't know. To me, this almost sounds like he's going to be there in the, in this Last of Us multiplayer game. You're going to have like a base of operations, and he'll probably be there, and you can literally ask him to play. You change the song essentially that you're hearing, the background music. Could be totally wrong about that. But this idea that we're gonna get a remastered version of The Last of Us Part 2 or a director's cut, also just as possible. The only thing I will say is this: The Last of Us multiplayer game is real and has been confirmed. We haven't heard anything official about The Last of Us Part 2 in terms of a remaster, or I guess a director's cut would be a remaster. I will tell you right now, I do not care about The Last of Us Part 2 if it were to get a director's cut. I wouldn't buy it. I'm not interested in it, but I would understand why Naughty Dog would do it. I think it's going to be a bad look, frankly, because it's just like, people are getting fed up with the remakes and the remasters. I'm not saying I am. There are a lot of games that are remakes and remasters that I am looking forward to, but I think people are starting to get a little fed up, and I think it's just not a great look for Naughty Dog after The Last of Us Part 1 to then be like, we're now going to basically remaster Part 2, where it's like, people are going to begin to, I mean, dude, Naughty Dog, their output this generation has been nothing but remakes and remasters. Uncharted Collection, The Last of Us Part 1. I understand that a lot of people are like not feeling too great about The Last of Us multiplayer, but at least the multiplayer game is a new video game. It may be the same franchise in the same universe, maybe a lot of the same mechanics, but it's something fresh and new. I am really hoping that the composer here is actually talking about the multiplayer game, because I have zero excitement or interest in a remaster. It's the same way I feel about Horizon Zero Dawn apparently getting a director's cut or a remaster. Like, I don't need that. I'm good, man. Like, it's just so upsetting to see Sony get this aggressive with these remakes and remasters when there are so many other games that deserve it first, man. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of you guys share that same sentiment where it's tough. Like, The Last of Us Part 2 came out in 2020 and it has a 60 FPS update. We don't need it on PS. Like, we don't need any time or effort for another version. You're saying it's for PC. Yeah, that's the but that's the thing, man, is like, I don't know, how well did The Last of Us Part 1 sell on PC? Do we think, well, you know what? I just realized they have season 2 of the HBO show coming. And I bet you that's probably exactly what it is. But you know, at that point, I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm just really hoping it's for the multiplayer. We're still waiting for a Loco Roco remaster. Loco fans are starving. I don't know, man. I just want to see this Last of Us multiplayer game, man. Maybe I have some hopium going on right now, but I really want to see the Last of Us multiplayer. This game is not dead. I know people think this game is dead. It's not. It's definitely not. I have a lot of faith that it's not dead, and they're just figuring out how they're gonna keep it going in the long run. I want to see this game. This game was supposed to be at the PlayStation Showcase. I hope that's what he's talking about, man. Because I don't mean to be a buzzkill, but man, believe me when I tell you, I have negative interest in a Last of Us Part 2 PS5 version. I just don't care. Saying it's more like Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut than Uncharted. Be a remaster, not a remake. Yeah, that's yeah. I know it won't be like The Last of Us Part 1. The Last of Us Part 1 needed a much bigger overhaul than 2 will need. But saying pay $10 for upgrading. Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, I guess that wouldn't be too bad. It's just I don't know, man. Like, I'm just feeling burned out a little bit. I just hope if this is real, it's not something Sony's planning on announcing anytime soon. Randomly. Because like, dude, you know what? Let's face it. Let's be honest right now, guys. Let's be honest. Sony needs some good news right now. They do. I mean, maybe not right now. Again, it's the middle of July, but I'm just saying, like, the next time we get some real PlayStation news, it needs some good. It needs to be good. It really does, because it's just been. It hasn't been all bad, but it's either been very mundane and underwhelming, or bad. And saying Joel and Tommy DLC for the director's cut, I would play that. I would play that. Definitely. That would be very interesting. People are going to start calling it The Last of Us Remake. Oh, man. That just sounds gross. Their good news will be PC ports. A showcase would change everything these past months, MBG. It would, man. It would. MBG, you going to pick up the MGS collection and play through it again? Yeah. I am going to pick up a physical copy of the MGS collection. I don't think I'm going to play through literally everything. Excuse me. Like, I don't think I'm going to play like the original MSX games or anything like that. But 1, 2, 3. Saying it will just be a state of play. Yeah. You want the truth, MBG? Jim Ryan thinks you can't handle the truth. Don't support it, MBG. It's just a waste. Major Nelson's joining PlayStation Watch. He would be rejected, bro. He's not joining PlayStation. Like, no. That just feels wrong on so many levels. Like, dude, you are Major Nelson. You don't belong at PlayStation, man. That would be so funny. It would be very funny. You know, because you know the memes you would see? Microsoft may have acquired Activision Blizzard, but Sony has acquired Major Nelson. You know, like something stupid like that. But yeah, that was pretty much the last topic that I wanted to bring up here. The podcast, I keep calling it a podcast, but the show, I guess it is a podcast. Um, Hold on, just seeing. Was this something new? No, this isn't something new. Okay, so yeah, the show is coming to an end very soon here, and so before that happens, we'll let you know we are at 27 members on the day. The goal is set to 35. If you guys, I don't know if anybody wants to jump in, help us hit that goal today, dole out some membership gifts, consider doing so. But for those who have gifted already, we again 27 gifts, 27 members total. Really appreciate that kind of support, guys. I know that there's not a whole lot going on right now. There's not a lot of excitement. At least I don't know. I don't feel like there's a lot of excitement. I mean, maybe not everybody agrees with me. It's not to say that I haven't been enjoying gaming. I've actually been having a great time gaming. That's kind of the upside to this. With things being so quiet, with things being so, bleh, I guess you could say, in the middle of July, it has been a great time. I mean, I'll be honest, man. Final Fantasy 16 dropped at the perfect time, bro. Like, I like I've been telling you guys, I've been no-lifing the game, and I've been thoroughly enjoying it. And I'm looking forward to Remnant 2 next, and still playing a little bit of Dead by Daylight with my friends at night. So overall, it's been pretty good, man. Spiritual story time with MBG, not today. Can't do it every time. Don't worry. I do have more. I have to be in a certain mood to conjure up, the will to want to talk about that type of stuff. I think I exerted all my energy yesterday, so we'll there'll be another one. There will be another one at some point. Spoonie says PlayStation makes me feel things. Damn, bro. Somebody says, from what I saw, Major Nelson is retiring. Yeah, that's what it seemed like to me. Seems like the dude's just like, I'm good, man. I'm retiring. Good time to retire too, on a high note. A lot of goodwill right now going Xbox's way. But yeah, so I don't know. I do want to let you guys know. I might be streaming tomorrow. If I decide to stream tomorrow, I'm gonna put out a notification on the community tab to let you guys know so you're aware. On Sunday, I'm planning to stream, and assuming that there's no gaming news that comes out between now and Sunday, which there probably won't be, I have a type of stream. It's not that different. I'm just saying it's not going to be a news-based stream, but I will be doing a somewhat regular stream, talk about some stuff that I think would be fun. It's not going to be like a spiritual thing or anything like that, or talking about music, nothing like that. It will be gaming related. So that's my plan for Sunday, and then after that, we'll just kind of see. We'll see what happens next week, man. What about the new channel? I don't know, man. I really got to think about it because it's a pretty big undertaking. Like I feel like I don't want to. I'm having not a hard time, but like all of my effort goes into managing this channel as it is. I feel like if I create a second channel, I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna have the bandwidth for that. Maybe. I still have to think about it. Can we watch Pumping Iron? Maybe not Pumping. I don't know, man. I've been watching like a bunch of videos on like Terminator and stuff because I just watched Terminator 2 the other night, and just like really quick. I didn't see the last Terminator movie. It's called Dark Fate. Came out in 2019. I didn't watch it, but I watched one of these videos. I forget the name of the channel. It's a pretty big channel, pretty popular channel, where they basically break down the movie for you and give their they kind of make fun of it a little bit or give their thoughts on it. And oh my God, yeah, dude. The Terminator franchise is done, bro. At least it seems like it. Terminator Dark Fate. I'm glad I didn't watch it. It looks bad. It's not Red Letter Media. No, I forget who it was. Somebody real popular though. But I watched that video about Terminator Dark Fate and I'm just like, God damn, dude. it just gave me some really weird vibes. Really, really weird vibes. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing. But all right, guys, that is going to do it for the stream today. Again, I just want to give everybody a big thank you. My last request, something I'll ask you guys to do before you head out. Please just hit that like button for me. I don't know if we'll be able to get to 300 likes, but every like helps. Every like counts, helps with YouTube's algorithm. And I know I haven't been making any videos recently. I'm well aware. I honestly have just been taking a little bit of a break. And this has been a great time to take a break with making videos because there's really not much happening. Sure, you know what I mean? PlayStation's being pretty quiet right now. And so I do plan to get back to making videos somewhat soon. So, look forward to that. But all right, guys, enjoy the rest of your Friday. Have a good weekend. Hopefully, I'll do some more streams on the weekend. Skizzle Access, have a great day too, man. I appreciate the support, guys. Shout out to everybody who gifted memberships. Shout out to everybody who donated super chats. Really appreciate you guys. Literally couldn't do what I do here if it wasn't for you. So, all right, that does it. Shout out to Devil Shooter, by the way, for always doing the timestamps as well. It does a great job with it. If you see Devil Shooter in the comments, give him a big thumbs up. Give him a big thank you. And I appreciate all that work you put in, man. So, all right, that does it, guys. I will catch you in the next one. Till then, take care.